Welcome to the final day of the 2025 Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. We're in the iconic city of Glasgow on the banks of the River Clyde for what promises to be a spectacular conclusion to this year's race. The racing has been tough, and yesterday's finish into Kelso saw a third rider in 3 days claim the leader's green jersey. Who's it going to be as they go through 500 metres to go? They take the sweeping left-hand bend. Gasparini in prime position right now. 300 metres remaining. It's Kat Ferguson who sits second wheel. Who's going to be the first to launch? Ferguson goes onto the cobbles. She's the one who makes the acceleration. She hooks the right-hand side of the road. Nelson's trying to get on terms. Wollaston hasn't got anything to try and respond. And look at that. A British 1-2, and Ferguson takes her first World Tour victory. Well, that dramatic win and the 10 bonus seconds that came with it means that Kat Ferguson leads the race by just 3 seconds from Ali Wollaston. Caroline Swinkles is third ahead of Rhiannon Marcus, Sarah Van Dam and Megan Jastrab at 52 seconds. Well, it's all to play for today. Everyone is getting themselves set. The bonus seconds are available on today's stage. It's so close and tight at the top of the standings. There is our leader's jersey in the green, Kat Ferguson. Let's hear from some of the standout riders from yesterday.
Yeah, really excited for today. I think the team's really ready. We've planned and checked the course really well, and we have a good plan in place to hopefully hold on to the jersey today.
You've had your meeting, obviously bonus seconds are going to be really important today. What's the tactics?
Yeah, I think it's all about the bonus seconds, to be honest. I think we're ready to sprint if it comes to a sprint and there's no breakaways to take away the seconds. But yeah, of course it would be really nice if a 3-man break could go the whole race. But yeah, I'm going to back my sprint, and yeah, we'll give everything for the 3 intermediate sprints and also for the finish.
Yeah, obviously I'm 3 seconds behind on GC, so there's 3 bonus sprints today, so yeah, fingers crossed we just go full gas for all 3. But yeah, that's definitely the plan, to claw back a few seconds today.
Well, I'm not a pure sprinter, so actually the 2 girls in front of me are really fast. So yeah, I have to, of course, make another tactic than to try to beat them in the sprint.
And legs feeling good and confident?
Good is another thing, but I'm confident enough, yes. Thank you.
It's certainly going to be a thriller, isn't it? It certainly is. Well, today, on today's stage, there she is, the former world champion and 2-time winner of this race, Lizzie Deignan, and it also marks the final time that Lizzie Deignan will compete at the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. She's won the race on 2 occasions and, of course, enjoyed a remarkable career, inspiring a generation of young riders.
I've been watching Lizzie since before I even started racing.
She's definitely had the biggest influence on my cycling career.
I always looked up to her, especially the year when she was world champ. She really rocked that jersey.
I feel really lucky that I know I'm retiring, that I know that this is my last Tour of Britain, and I'm determined to just enjoy it.
The work that she's done for women's cycling and the visibility that we have now from when she started to win to where we are now is just amazing, and she's been a huge catalyst in that.
Lizzie will always be and hold a special place in my heart in how I got into the sport. The first memory I have watching her is at the London Olympics when she won the first medal for Team GB, and since then, with her being really near me, she's been the rider that I've fixated on.
Oh, she's such an amazing rider, and now as a teammate it's really nice to ride together with her. She's such a good domestique and she has the experience. She always stays calm. It's a real pleasure to spend the last year together.
She's like a legend in the sport, and it's cool to see her race on these home roads and be in the peloton with her. I've looked up to her for many years, and yeah, now I get to race alongside her, and it's really special.
She's been a huge inspiration for me and really paved the way for women's cycling, I think, and it'll be a really sad day to see her step away from professional sport.
No regrets, definitely not. I mean, Glasgow means a lot to me. I won the Commonwealth Games there and national title, and you know, I love racing in Glasgow. The people are incredibly warm and friendly. They welcome us. There'll be a great atmosphere, and I just want to soak it up, yeah.
Well, it was wonderful to hear the comments from her colleagues in the peloton there, very, very special, as Lizzie Deignan has one last race on British soil here at the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. Olympic silver medalist, world champion on the road, world champion on the track. Some incredible victories throughout her career. On a location that holds special memories here in Glasgow. Particularly here in Glasgow Green, where she won that national title and that Commonwealth Road race title. She's going to be integral to her team today at Little Trek with Rhiannon Marcus, who we heard from. 4th place currently for Rhiannon Marcus. Lizzie Deignan will be trying to help her as best as possible to try and get her onto that podium of the overall general classification. There is our leader in the green jersey, Kat Ferguson. Feels like a changing of the guard here with Kat Ferguson leading the race, and for Lizzie Deignan, and it's her final Lloyds Tour of Britain Women, having won the race on 2 occasions. When you hear the comments from Kat Ferguson, and she remembers 2012, the London Olympics, with Lizzie Deignan winning that Olympic silver medal. She's certainly been a huge inspiration to so many. There she is at the back, number 33 with the red numbers. You can see her with the red, blue and yellow jersey just at the back. She's got those red numbers because, of course, yesterday she was awarded and voted by you, the public, as the most combative rider of yesterday's stage, and it was thoroughly deserved for all of the work that she did. But not just that, but also stopping after the crash that we saw and waiting with Marta Roldan. So it was certainly a well-deserved combativity prize for Lizzie Deignan. We've got 1.8 kilometres of neutral before the race will officially get underway. This is the 4th and final stage of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. 82.2 kilometres around Glasgow. 10 laps of an 8.4 kilometre circuit. We've got 3 intermediate sprints, which all come with those burner seconds and the points. The Queen of the Mountains competition is wrapped up. You'll see Dominika Wladysek of UAE Team ADQ. That's the Polish champion, wearing and leading that classification. You'll see her in the blue jersey. She's just behind the red car currently, alongside the former New Zealand national road race champion, Ali Wollaston. She's occupying the red jersey on behalf of Kat Ferguson. Well, settle yourselves in. It's certainly going to be a thrilling finale here because it's so close in the general classification, because we've got such an exciting stage and an exciting course. This is going to be fantastic, and of course to be in the iconic city of Glasgow itself. My name's Hannah Walker. Alongside me is Hayley Simmons for one final ride. Hayley, so far this race has delivered on all fronts. It's been thrilling, exciting, it's been unexpected at times, but one thing's for certain: we've just had fantastic racing.
Absolutely, and I think it's a combination of the course that's been designed by the organisation and also just the way these teams and these women have tackled those stages. The courses themselves have led to unpredictable racing, but it's been aggressive, and I think obviously some teams have come in with a plan for a specific leader that they want to try and win the general classification with, whereas other teams maybe have been looking more towards stages and haven't had an overall contender. And what that's led to is quite dynamic racing. And of course, the weather conditions have also added to the difficulty and made it even more exciting, actually.
Well, the flag's been waved one final time by the race director, Rod Ellingworth. Kilometre 0 is underway, and the 4th and final stage of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. 82.2 kilometres of racing to go there. You can see 10 laps in total, and already Ali Wollaston in that red jersey is up towards the front. On the left side in the pink jersey of EF Education Oatley, that's Nina Burton. She's been incredible over the last 4 days, or at least the last 3 stages, and no doubt she's got a big job on her hands today, and she'll be equally as impressive today.
Absolutely. You know, I was looking through some of the comments from some of the girls racing last night, and there was a lot of talk about obviously how much bad luck there had been for the EF Education Oatley squad yesterday. And one thing that always stands out is just how much respect, obviously, the riders in the team have for each other and how much appreciation they have. And you know, we saw crashes, we saw mechanicals, we saw all sorts yesterday. But Kristin Faulkner basically was just giving so much respect to Nina Berton, to her teammates, for everything that they did to try and help her hold on to that green jersey. They gave her bikes, they dropped back at the right time, they gave everything. And unfortunately for that team, it was just one bit of bad luck too many in the end. But you know, these girls go through everything together, and they'll suffer again for another 82 kilometers today.
Up towards the front in those purple jerseys with a little yellow patch on the right-hand shoulder of the jersey. That's SD Worx Pro Time. Sadly for them, they lost Barbara Grishki yesterday because of that crash, so that's a huge loss for the team, and we wish Barbara Grishki all the best for her recovery and from any injuries that she sustained in that crash yesterday. Lorena Wiebes is the rider sitting in third wheel. She's in the white jersey as the European champion. She's got the blue bands around the chest, she's got the blue helmet on, and again another rider. It hasn't all gone the way of SD Worx Pro Time. We see them so dominant throughout a season. Lorena Wiebes will be looking to try and turn that around today.
Absolutely. You know, we've mentioned her a couple of times at the start of the stages as, oh, she could take today's stage. We know that she's the fastest finisher in the race overall if she gets to the finish with the lead group. We saw her nearly take the win on stage one. Unfortunately, there were still those two riders 7 seconds ahead. Yesterday, she was looking so strong on those climbs. We thought that she would be able to safely navigate those climbs with the leaders. And then, unfortunately, she was caught up with the crash. She also waited after the crash. She waited with her teammate, Barbara Grishki, to check that she was okay. And obviously, that led to her not being in contention for the finale. But you have to say, looking at today's stage, if things do go her way and the way of the team today, I can't look past her for the win.
On home roads, Hansling Elba Development Road team. This is a Scottish-based team who are on the front in those blue and pink jerseys. They've been having a standout performance, particularly with Lauren Dixon, who has just gone from strength to strength. 17th overall at the moment in the general classification at 3 minutes and 26 seconds, but it's more about the way that she's ridden, her stage finishes. As now we start to see Smurfit Westrock in the red and black jersey start to stretch things out here as we go on to Finniston Street. Glasgow has these short, steep climbs, which on one occasion they're fine.
10 times.
10 times. The accumulation, you really start to feel it, and particularly after 3 demanding stages that the riders have gone through already. At the back here, number 165, one of those riders from Hansling Elba Development, and that is Ariana Holland.
That's what I was going to say to you. I think if you had this race in isolation, you know, for a Commonwealth Games or a European Games, as we've seen, you know, variations on this circuit being used before, then that's one thing. It's still very wearing going up all these short, steep ascents, and also the accelerations out of the corners. You know, I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but all of these things become very wearing. But the fact that they're tackling this on day 4, and there hasn't been an easy day in this race. There's been the wins and the climbs on stage 1, and that was also really short, so it was raced very aggressively. And then the past 2 days, you know, they've had really bad weather to contend with. They've had more tough climbs, and it's just been full gas racing. So the fact that they've now got 10 laps of this circuit to tackle today, everyone's going to be tired.
Onto West George Street, they're going to pass George Square on the right-hand side. This section of road was used in the World Championships back in 2023, but in the reverse direction. Of course, Glasgow has played host to many major championships in the last 11 years, starting with the Commonwealth Games in 2014, then of course those European Championships back in 2018, the race one which actually did finish on Glasgow Green, that was won by Marta Bastianelli that year, the Italian rider. Of course, the Commonwealth title going to Lizzie Deignan in 2014. That was off the back of a national title win in 2013, and then of course the UCI Cycling Mega World Championships as you could call them. Every discipline, barring cyclocross, was featured here in Glasgow in 2023, and it really was an incredible 2 weeks of racing across the majority of the disciplines in cycling.
And the atmosphere, Lizzie Deignan alluded to it in her interview. The atmosphere that you get racing in Glasgow is incredible. I remember my first ever British National Championship road race was when it was raced in Glasgow in 2013, and then I was lucky enough to be at the European Championships doing the time trial, and then of course I was in Glasgow working for the Road World Championships, and just the atmosphere on all of those occasions, the support that you hear from the roadside, and just how much people get behind it is incredible. And even, you know, we're starting quite early on a Sunday morning, and already fans are out at the roadside cheering, watching the races go by, and I think the number of people there is only going to grow over the course of the next 80 kilometres.
You can see there's a number of riders who are keeping themselves well to the fore, including Ali Wollaston in that red jersey on the far left side, and despite sometimes being in the wind, on this kind of circuit here, it's far better to have your nose in the wind and be
well positioned,
yeah, as opposed to being further back, because you can see the ricochet effect towards the back and that tail whip at the back of the peloton, how riders are really starting to suffer here. They're almost getting just sucked off the back.
The problem with this circuit, or problem for people who are maybe suffering a little bit or who are at the back, is that it's a short circuit. We've got 8.4 kilometres per lap, but actually in that 8.4 kilometres we have effectively 12 90-degree corners. Two of those are maybe a bit more flowing, but that's less than a kilometre on average between each corner. So what we're going to see is a constant deceleration as riders obviously scrub some speed off into the corner. Here, obviously, sometimes you get a narrowing effect, so the riders at the back have to scrub off even more speed to make sure that they get through that corner safely. And whilst the riders at the back are still either decelerating or travelling through that corner, the riders at the front are already kicking really hard and accelerating and putting the pace back on. And so eventually what is likely to happen is riders who are at the back are just going to stop being able to kind of rejoin and make contact. And we're likely to see quite a few individuals falling off the back of this peloton, I think.
We enter back into Glasgow Green. We'll cross the riders will cross the finish line for the first time with 75.6 kilometres remaining. To give you the information, we've got 3 intermediate sprints. They will come on the 4th lap completed. That's with 50.4 kilometres to go. The 6th lap completed with 33.6 kilometres to go. And then the final intermediate sprint will be on the 8th lap completed with 16.8 kilometres remaining, and then bonus seconds will be available for the first 3 riders at the finish line. Well, they crossed the finish line for the first time. A great reception, the flags are waving. Brilliant for the riders on this final day. The sun is shining, it's dry.
Which I'm really glad to see, actually.
And it's well deserved after a day like yesterday where it was just treacherous.
It was, and I think if it had been wet today, I think it would have been quite nervous in the bunch after so many crashes or a couple of bad crashes yesterday, because obviously they're in a city centre, they've got a lot of 90-degree tight corners to take, and actually Glasgow Green itself, because obviously there's a lot of tree cover, actually some of the surface on Glasgow Green can get quite slick, quite slippy when it's wet. So I think it would have made for a very nervous peloton if it had been wet today. But thank goodness, Sunday morning, sun is shining, and yeah, the riders don't need to worry about that aspect of the race today.
You mentioned about the corners that the riders have to take on, and effectively it's 12 corners on each lap, 10 laps, 120 accelerations that the riders will be having to do, just to make sure they can hold their position up towards the front, that they can follow any moves, and that's aside from any other effort that they're going to have to make in this race. And so you could be effectively looking at 160 big accelerations today.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know, by this point riders are fatigued. That kind of short, sharp bursts of power they're already going to be suffering with. And so, you know, I think some riders are really going to struggle with this course today. And actually I had a bit of a count as they passed through the finish line for that first time, and even though obviously the race isn't going very hard at the moment, it's quite relaxed, it's quite controlled, there was still something like 10 seconds between the first line of riders crossing the finish line and the riders who are just kind of at the tail end of this peloton. Now that might not sound like that much now, but the race wasn't going very hard, and that was lap 1. And I think what you're going to see is as they start racing onto Glasgow Green and the peloton is in one very long line, it's going to be big gaps starting to open.
And on this kind of circuit, given the importance of positioning, knowing that the intermediate sprints will soon be upon us, and how close it is in the general classification, no team's going to want to let any speed go here. They're going to want to keep a certain kind of tempo.
Yeah, we've seen this a couple of times, and I think it's one thing often when we have the kind of high-level World Tour level racing in the UK, we have had a history of putting on some of these circuit racing. We've seen the Ride London course, obviously around the Mall, and the dynamics of that style of racing are quite different to more of the traditional UCI road race. And I think what's going to be really interesting today is that you've got different teams with almost wanting opposite tactics. They want opposite things to happen. We heard Kat Ferguson say they would be really happy if a break of 3, maybe 4 riders, effectively enough riders to take up all the bonus seconds at the intermediate sprint, went away, swept up the maximum 9 bonus seconds at the intermediate sprints, and then it came back together for the finish. So Movistar quite happy, 3 riders who are down on GC go up the road. Whereas FDJ Suez obviously want a couple of bonus seconds because Ali Wollaston is 3 seconds in arrears. So what they want is for the peloton to stay more together, or certainly to be together by the time they get to the end of lap 4 when you see the first intermediate sprint, so that Ali Wollaston can contest the sprint and pick up some bonus seconds. So those 2 tactics could also almost neutralise each other.
And you can see how teams are using this section of road here, given the fact it's pretty wide, there's plenty of space, using an opportunity to try and move up, because we've got some sections where it's very narrow, and you can already start to see here one of the riders from Smurfit Westrock cycling team, that's Lucy Harris, really struggling with his pace at the back. Also on the far left side, number 163, that's the Hansling Alba Development Road team rider, and that's Amy Gornall.
Yeah, there are these sections of road that are much narrower, and I think particularly as they go on to Glasgow Green on those intermediate laps where there are sprint points available and bonus seconds available, we'll almost see lead outs into the corners, into the narrow sections, so that teams can get their race leaders through safely and in a good position, because then it's going to be harder to move.
You've got this washing machine effect, essentially, where riders are moving forward, moving around the outside, and those who were once in a good position down the centre of the road find themselves in 20th, 25th position, and then you have to start the process again, so you're constantly having to move. You can never rest on your laurels and thinking you're in a good position, because as soon as you think you're not in a good position, you're already place 25, 30.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I'm well used to that, getting to the front and thinking, thank goodness I can see the front of the race in this style of racing, and then all of a sudden I'm like, hang on a second, there's now no one. Where am I? The whole peloton's now ahead of me. What's going on here? And yeah, so you know, obviously everybody knows this race. These races are fatiguing physically in terms of your legs, but actually this style of racing where you have that washing machine effect like you've just spoken about is also mentally fatiguing. You can't switch off for a second, and some riders will be more used to this style of racing than others. Some of the British girls are kind of quite used to it in criterium style racing. We've got a history of having quite a few criteriums here in the UK, but doing this style of race with a World Tour peloton is very different to doing it at a national criterium series level.
Kristen Faulkner, the USA national road race champion and the Olympic champion, who is on the front, former wearer of the green jersey. Yesterday she had a day to forget, but she's fighting fit. She's back trying to give it her all for her team of VF Education Oatly, trying to deliver a stage victory. By the way, one of their riders didn't take to the start this morning, Letizia Borghese, the Italian rider, so a big loss for the American squad.
I love to see the fact that despite the fact that Kristen Faulkner obviously lost that green jersey yesterday due to all of the mishaps and bad luck that team suffered, she's not just kind of sitting in today and thinking, okay, well, you know, my general classification ambitions have disappeared. She's at the front, she's active, and it almost looks like she wants to do something just to almost prove that, you know, she kind of deserved to maybe still have that jersey if things had gone a different way.
And even if it doesn't go her way today, as we see a problem here for one of the riders from Picnic Postinel, that's number 123, and that's Charlotte Cole, who has dropped a chain, one of the big favourites for the stage victory today. She's a top-class sprinter, a stage winner in the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, and a former wearer of the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. She's an experienced rider, no doubt, but on this kind of course, with these kind of speeds, any kind of mechanical problem you want to avoid.
We saw it when the World Championships were here, actually. So when some riders did suffer mechanical issues, it can be so difficult to get back in touch. And normally riders are able to use the convoy as well to help them move back up after a mechanical mishap. They can move through the cars, but actually it's going to be difficult for cars on some of the narrower sections of this course. It's difficult for the team cars to move through, and so it is difficult if you have a mechanical issue to perhaps make contact.
93 riders remain in the race. To give you the riders who didn't finish yesterday: Lucy Lee of Das Hutchinson, Barbara Gurishki after that crash, the Italian rider for SD Works Pro Time, Letizia Borghese of VF Education Oatly. Letizia Paternoster didn't finish, the Italian rider for Liverlula Jayco. Anina Attasalo, the Finnish road race champion for Uno X Mobility. Kim LaCourt, a former stage winner here, she won stage one and took the first green jersey on day one into red car. That's the Mauritian champion from AG Insurance, Soudal. Marta Roldan of Picnic Postinel, Caroline Coops of Hess Cycling Team, and Sana Zaman didn't finish the stage. And I can give you the update from Marta Roldan after that crash yesterday, that the team released the news last night that she undergoes surgery today before beginning her recovery at her own pace, because sadly the 21-year-old Canadian suffered a broken femur in that crash. So we wish Marta Roldan all the very, very best for that recovery and a successful surgery.
You can see actually there one of the riders from the SD Works Pro Time team just sitting at the front of the bunch and taking some instruction on her radio. Now, whether that was from the car or potentially from Lorena Wiebes or somebody else within the peloton, obviously we don't know, but you know, clearly they have a plan going into today. They want to do something. Undoubtedly they want to try and take the win with Lorena Wiebes, but they certainly are riding as though they have intent today.
Here's Charlotte Cole, who's come back through the convoy. She's recovered her mechanical problem. She's made light work of that. You can see one of the teammates on the far left side and actually on the right-hand side, both of them dropping back through the peloton to come and recover Charlotte Cole. But she's made light work of that. She's back into the peloton pretty swiftly, I've got to say. And look at this, she's gone straight past the back markers currently, and she knows that she needs to get through here, through Glasgow Green, before it starts to open up again. Then she'll have an opportunity to move back through the peloton. But we talk about riders who are absolute class at riding through a peloton, finding their way through. They can find gaps. They make it look easy.
She's certainly
one of
them.
those.
Absolutely, and you know, she's she's come to this race with some great form. She's somebody that we often talk about. If we're talking about Lorena Wiebes in a sprint finish, then Charlotte Kool is a great sprint rival of Lorena Wiebes. And you also have to consider Charlotte Kool for today's finish as well. And looking at the results from yesterday, she finished 10th on an incredibly difficult stage with a lot of climbing. She's also perfectly capable of getting over the climbs that we saw yesterday. Obviously today we don't have that difficulty, and I think today's circuit will suit her really well. She has a really strong team around her who can help her.
2 laps complete, 8 laps to go, 67.6 kilometres remain. One problem at the back here for one of the riders from Uno X Mobility. This looks like it's Anuska Costa. She's looking for the team car. She's got a right arm raised. She's pointing to a back wheel. There she has. She's got a rear wheel puncture. She's going to try and ride on that rear wheel puncture for as long as possible. And it's difficult because when the team cars, and you saw through Glasgow Green, it's 1 car width wide, so it's very difficult for the cars in the convoy to move forward to come and assist a rider.
Yeah.
So you've just got to ride for as long as possible.
Which it depends on the severity of the mechanical issue. If you have a slow puncture, potentially if you're running tubeless tyres, which maybe have sealant in and have sealed, then they'll hold a bit more pressure and you can ride on it for a bit longer. That looked quite flat already, actually. So I don't think she's going to be able to ride on that for too long. So she's going to have to hope that the driver of her team car can push the way forward as quickly as possible and get to her. But that is a difficulty on this kind of circuit, is that it can sometimes not just be difficult for the riders to move around, but also cars within the convoy. So hopefully they manage to get to her quite quickly.
Alex Wetterhall, get on that horn and toot your way through the convoy. Move yourself up, Anuska Costa needs you.
It's another kind of factor of racing on these city centre circuits. The circuits are absolutely great for the spectators, for the fans, and to create an atmosphere for the riders. But sometimes you do have a bit more risk in terms of what you might find on the roads. There's the chance that there might be some bits of broken glass, as well as kind of the normal stones or what have you. So there is more of a kind of puncture risk sometimes on these circuits.
Zoe Backstead is the rider on the front of the peloton on the right-hand side of the screen with the pink jersey, the multicoloured jersey, but predominantly pink with the Red Bull helmet on. She's looking after the interests of Cecilia Chubb-Ludwig today, and of course they've got the sprinter Chiara Consoni, so it's a double-edged sword for Canyon SRAM Zonda Crypto today. Cecilia Chubb-Ludwig is 7th overall in the general classification at 52 seconds. She's going to have to do something special. She's going to have to break away and win solo with a good time advantage if she wants to win the overall, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility.
No, we've seen her do it before, but I think on this circuit, it's obviously far less likely for that kind of time deficit to be overcome. I think with the nature of this circuit, unless something very, very unexpected happens, you are really thinking about 3 main contenders for the general classification. Kat Ferguson, Ali Wollaston and Carleen Schwinkels, who sits at a 12-second deficit in the general classification. And even that's a bit difficult.
Speaking of Chiara Consoni, by the way, yesterday her fan club had made their way all the way from Italy to Kelso.
Amazing.
They were there at the finish with a big banner, the Chiara Consoni fan club. She's got her own hashtags, hashtag very, very super. It was wonderful.
I love it.
It was wonderful.
I love seeing some of the things that fans do for their riders, and it makes it so special for these riders as well. Obviously we're incredibly lucky as professional cyclists, as professional athletes, to do the job that we do. I'm not gonna make it sound otherwise, but it can be hard. There are such the highs are so high, but the lows are so low in professional sport. As we saw with Mara Roldan, actually, she's a great example. She went from the highest of highs, her best ever victory, first World Tour victory, to then that horrific crash, and now taking a time out of the sport and having to have surgery today, and just having a bit of extra support when you're racing in a different country and potentially times are tough and things might not be going exactly your way. It just makes it that little bit easier, and it's an incredibly privileged job to have, but it can be mentally very challenging as well as physically, and just having support around you from your teammates, from your team staff, and then also from fans, just makes it that bit easier.
And even more special when they travel to another country to come and give you that support and out in force as well. Top job from the Chiara Consoni fan club. Watch out for Chiara Consoni. She's racing for Canyon SRAM's Honda Crypto. Number 53 is the number you're watching out for. Here on the front, it's Anna Morris in the white jersey, racing for the Great Britain national team. Olympic medalist. Anna Morris is a strong, dangerous rider. She's not a rider you want to give any time to, because she's a good time trialist, because she's very good at holding a high power, but in a linear fashion.
Yeah, we saw that yesterday, didn't we?
Well.
We saw that yesterday when she was, she maybe got a bit distanced on some of the earlier sections of the course, and she just kept that really consistent, hard tempo and managed to ride her way back through groups. And even if then the pace ahead of her changed and the gap went out a little bit more, she just stuck to that relentless tempo and eventually managed to rejoin a group and I think made it back to one of those front pelotons actually. So yeah, you're definitely not she's definitely not someone that they want to let just go off the front. Talking of the Canyon SRAM's Honda Crypto team, I think they'll want to do something today, because they were so close to doing something quite special yesterday, and actually it was that team, and it was Cecilie Uttrup-Ludwig who really ignited the race in those closing kilometers and initiated that move that resulted in the 6 riders going off the front, and you know, obviously helped put Kat Ferguson into that green jersey.
They almost want the redemption from yesterday, don't they?
Because yeah, I saw a post yesterday evening about the heartbreak, because they did it perfectly. They led out into the corner, into the final climb. Cecilie Uttrup-Ludwig attacked. She was out the front. A couple of riders joined her, and she looked in great form, absolutely great form. And then disaster struck, and she suffered, I believe, a rear wheel puncture. But she suffered a puncture, and unfortunately, she didn't have a team car behind her, couldn't get a bike change, had a wheel change, I think, from the neutral service motorbike, but effectively by the time the mechanical problem was resolved, she was in the first chase group and not that lead group of 6 anymore. And so yeah, the team had kind of given everything to put her in a stage-winning position, and then it was just bad luck that prevented her having the opportunity from going for that. And so I think today they will be looking for some form of redemption, and so I think we'll see them quite active.
Anna Morris has got a handful of seconds. It's FDJ Suez in the navy blue and red jerseys who are just holding and controlling this lone leader who's out front. Meanwhile, at the back, this is one of the riders from Smurfit Westrock in the red jersey. This is Lucy Harris. We've already started to see that Joe Tinley was fighting her way back on. She's number 176. The riders have just passed George Square. That's the city's main civic square, which was built in 1781. It took more than 2 decades to complete, though. It's currently undergoing some refurbishment, as you could see on that right-hand side. Of course, if you head in any direction from George Square, you can discover some of the UK's best preserved Victorian architecture. You've got numerous film and TV shows that have been filmed on these streets. You've also got the Victorian buildings in the grid system. Fast and Furious, Indiana Jones, and The Dial of Destiny, to name but a few of those films that have been filmed around here. Also past the City Chamber too, which was completed in 1888. It's one of the city's most majestic buildings, a real landmark and a symbol of Glasgow's historic wealth, and has for more than a century been the headquarters of the successive councils serving the city of Glasgow. Beautiful interior, you've got the marble staircase, more marble in the city chambers than there is in the Vatican.
I think this is going to be a common sight today, actually, just riders really feeling the accumulated fatigue of the last few days and just starting to suffer and be a little bit gapped at the back of the peloton. And you know, they'll have to hope that maybe the pace eases at the front, they can rejoin and make contact once again. But I think the more times this happens, the less likely it'll be that they'll be able to get back.
That was Ella Wallstrom, the rider from CJ O'Shea Racing, the 19-year-old. Meanwhile, at the front, starting to see a couple more riders move forward, including Alex Manley of AG Insurance Soudal. Meanwhile, several riders, well, this pace is relentless, and all of the injections of pace and sprinting out of these corners, it's really taking its toll. Number 152, this is Tamsin Miller, the British rider from Das Hutchinson, the 25-year-old. They head their way back into Glasgow Green. In the white jerseys, that is the riders of UAE Team 18Q, including the former Irish road race champion Lara Gillespie, and what a standout season she's having this year. She's been instrumental to big victories in the UAE Tour at the start of the season with her teammate Elisa Longo-Borghini. She's also had some top results herself. Excellent track rider for the Irish national team. Just alongside her, who's just moved forward in that white jersey, looking over her left shoulder, that was Eleonora Gasparini. In the blue jersey moving forward, this is Dominika Wlodaszek, the Polish road race champion and the winner of this Queen of the Mountains jersey. All she needs to do is finish today's stage, and she will go home as the winner of that Queen of the Mountains competition. She fought well for it. She's got a big job on her hands today, the 24-year-old Polish rider, as they come to the line, 7 laps to go. 3 laps complete, 59.8 kilometres remain. A number of riders trying to chase their way back on, including Ariana Holland and Tamsin Miller.
And I think this lap is where we might start to see some very early action, because of course there's now 8.4 kilometres remaining to that first intermediate sprint. So this is going to give us an early indication of what could happen on this stage and what the teams are likely to try and do. And you can already see the team of FDJ Suez are marshalling at the front. Ali Wollaston's right there, second wheel behind her teammate.
The question is, where is Kat Ferguson and where is Movistar? Movistar, you're looking out for the white jerseys with the navy band across the chest with the big white M. Of course, Kat Ferguson is the leader in the general classification. She's got the green jersey on, the Lloyds green jersey. That's the 19-year-old rider you're watching out for, the leader of the race. Just to run through the classification, it's Kat Ferguson who leads 3 seconds to Ali Wollaston. Caroline Swinkles is at 12 seconds in 3rd place. Further back in 4th place is Rhiannon Marcus at 40 seconds, with Sarah Van Dam sitting at 52 seconds in 5th, along with Megan Jastrab and Cecilia Uttrup-Ludwig.
So I can just see Kat Ferguson. I think she's on the wheel of, I think it's Aude Bianic, I couldn't quite tell, but just on the left-hand side of your shot as we got a front-on shot of the peloton. So she's got one teammate ahead of her at the moment, and Aude Bianic is a perfect wheel for her to be on, so experienced. Also just sitting behind Lizzie Deignan, I think, there. But they're keeping themselves right near the front. I think they're watching the team of FDJ Suez, and I think Kat Ferguson is ready to go head-to-head with Ali Wollaston, even in this first intermediate sprint.
Franziska Brauser, the Olympic team pursuit champion from 2021, is sitting towards the front in the middle of the road in the red and blue jersey. She's trying to pilot Sarah Van Dam. Sarah Van Dam, she's sitting comfortably in the top 5, 52 seconds. It's going to take an awful lot to overhaul Kat Ferguson, but perhaps Sarah Tizet Pro Cycling believe that they can elevate themselves higher than Rihanna Marquez and maybe go home with a fourth, maybe the top 5 to hold on to a top 5 placing in the overall classification in a World Tour race is the big ambition for the German squad. We'll get to the end of this 4th lap, 50.4 kilometers to go. That's when we'll have that first intermediate sprint. I was going to say 5 riders. 5 riders there for the French World Tour squad in the navy blue and red jerseys. They're getting themselves lined up, and you can see how they're hugging one side of the road as opposed to being in the middle and getting overhauled here.
We mentioned yesterday and maybe the day before as well about teams moving together and staying together within the peloton, and we're really seeing that today, and I think we're going to see it throughout today's stage. The team of FDJ Suez are working as a unit to protect Ali Wollaston and try and move her into that GC Leaders jersey. We're also seeing the team of SD Works Pro Time moving together. I've seen Lorena Wiebes up near the front of the race consistently today so far, and I think this is a really crucial stage where it's even more important than normal to operate as a team because of the nature of the circuit, because it can be so easy to lose each other with all these turns.
We're seeing SD Works Pro Time move up in those purple jerseys, but in terms of the general classification and needing bonus seconds, which come at the next 3 intermediate sprints, they have no rider who is there to try and pick up those points. So what is the ambition here? Why keep yourself so to the fore?
I think predominantly for them it's more of a safety consideration at this point, because as you said, there's actually no point them going for the intermediate sprints, because those bonus seconds aren't going to help them in any way. For them, the one thing that they can now take out of this race is a stage win. So I think that's what they're going to be looking for today. But obviously, we've seen on the last few stages, Lorena Wiebes could have been in a position to contest that stage win, and then hasn't been able to because of misfortune. So on the stage that finished on Saltburn Bank, stage 2, she got caught in that crash just before going into the final lap. That put her out of contention on that stage. Yesterday she waited with her teammate after the crash, so she wasn't in contention for that stage. So we see how quickly the situation can change, and if there were to be a crash today, which obviously we really hope that there isn't, but it is always a consideration of racing, and particularly on this style of circuit. They want to avoid Lorena Wiebes being caught out behind a crash, or worse, caught within a crash.
There are 55 points available in the points classification today if you were to win all 3 intermediate sprints and win the stage. 25 points available for the stage winner, 10 points available for each intermediate sprint for the first rider to cross the line. Could that be any ambition for Lorena Wiebes, or is today all about trying to go for a stage victory?
I mean, it could be, because ultimately just standing on a podium at the end of the race is great. And actually, we know she's the best sprinter in the race, probably on paper, one of the best sprinters in the world, if not the best. So she could take all 3 intermediate sprints and the finish, in which case, if she took all of those points, she could take the points jersey and a stage win. So that's 2 jerseys, and, you know, 2's better than 1.
Alex Morris, number 173 in this red jersey, is just making her way back to the peloton. This stage is relentless. It's never going to let up. You can see a little further in front of Alex Morris, around halfway down the peloton actually, is the European champion Lorena Wiebes. She's sitting probably a little bit further back than she might have liked. Meanwhile, at the front there is Lizzie Deignan, just looking over her left-hand shoulder, the former world champion and 2-time winner of this race. Accelerates to click down the gears. She's got Loretta Hansen in the wheel. Also on the front in the white jersey is Jess Roberts, an Olympic medalist from Paris 2024. She's got Millie Cousins, who is in the wheel. Millie Cousins, don't forget, she is right up there in the best young rider classification, and Millie Cousins right now is 10th overall at 59 seconds. And so, given the fact that in the general classification, to try and get yourself into the top 5, she only needs 7 seconds to get into the top 5 and to try and overhaul Sarah Van Dam. So Millie Cousins and the Great Britain national team, they come with a strong plan here.
Yeah, and you mentioned before a top 5, a top 10 finish in a women's World Tour race is absolutely worth fighting for. It's not obviously some riders are going to be looking for those podium positions, but for other riders, maybe younger riders who don't get the opportunity to race so many World Tour races, for them just a top 5, a top 10 finish at this level is an incredible achievement. So yes, okay, it might not be possible to overhaul the top 3, but actually, if you look at the general classification at the moment, between 5th place Sarah Van Dam, she sits at 52 seconds, and then 10th place Millie Cousins is 59. So it's such a small margin between those riders that a few seconds can move you up quite a few places.
And by far, it would be Millie Cousins' best result of her young career. So there's a lot to play for. She's, of course, a World Tour professional with Fenix de Koning when she's racing with her trade team, along with her Great Britain national teammate here, Flora Perkins, both riders 21 years of age, both racing for Fenix de Koning. You can see that Cousins has opted to take the wheel of Anna Henderson, sitting in 3rd wheel in the red, blue and yellow jersey. Henderson, an Olympic silver medalist. You're looking out for Cousins in that white jersey. She's borrowing the Best Young Rider classification jersey off the shoulders of Kat Ferguson, because of course Kat Ferguson is in the green. Now finally Movistar bringing themselves forward with 2 riders, and that's Floortje Mackay and Aude Bieniek on the far left side in the white jersey with that navy blue band around the chest and the light blue on the cuffs of the sleeves. This kind of racing, Kat Ferguson will be very used to coming through the British ranks, given the fact that we've got so many circuit races, we've got so many city centre races going on, and despite the length is far greater here, just being used to this kind of racing and the ebb and flow of a city circuit, she'll feel at home.
Absolutely, I think she's felt at home all week. I think there's something incredible. Oh, Lorena Wiebes just caught a sight of her there. I'm not quite sure where her team has gone, but she's talking about riders being able to just look after themselves and move themselves through a bunch effortlessly. Lorena Wiebes is that person, and she doesn't need, I mean, her team is obviously great and she definitely is thankful for them, but she doesn't need them to move her forward, does she?
You can't underestimate how impressive that is, to move up from 3/4 of the way down a peloton
and then
to be
materialise at the front.
Right at the front at the right time, coming into an intermediate sprint.
I wish I had a 100th of the ability to move through a bunch as Lorena Wiebes has. Good grief. No, Kat Ferguson feeling at home. You know, she probably loved the weather yesterday, and now she, you know, as you said, she's used to this style of racing, having come up through the British ranks. And then, of course, there's just something special about racing in your home country with the home support, everybody knowing your name and cheering for you, and it just makes it that little bit kind of extra special. I can only imagine what it will feel like for her if she manages to win today.
1 kilometre until we get to that first intermediate sprint of the day here in Glasgow Green. It's FDJ Suez who lead things. It's Marie Linette who is on the front. You can see the red jersey of Ali Wollaston, who is poised and ready. She's an excellent sprinter, but yesterday she got outsmarted, outpowered by Kat Ferguson for that final. Megan Jastrab is up towards the front for Picnic Postinel. Kat Ferguson is well placed currently. When you come into Glasgow Green, it's very difficult to try and move up and better your position. FDJ Suez, they've got riders at their disposal for Ali Wollaston. They're starting to make an acceleration. On the right-hand side is Anna Henderson. Sarah Van Dam up towards the front. Kat Ferguson swings it into this right-hand bend with 150 metres to go, and immediately she starts to sprint to try and go for these 3 bonus seconds. She knows this could be the biggest victory of her life if she can deliver the overall victory here. Well, she's pipped to the post by Ali Wollaston. Such was the effort that Kat Ferguson made there, almost coming together, a touch of wheels, managed to hold it and save it upright, but that's 3 seconds into the pocket of Ali Wollaston, 2 seconds into the pocket of Kat Ferguson. Wollaston now only 2 seconds behind Kat Ferguson and edging closer. Sarah Van Dam taking the one remaining bonus second. Ooh.
It almost looked like the finish of the race there, didn't it? Rather than, you know, still, well, 4 laps done and 6 to go.
The riders pass what is our feed zone on the right-hand side. They're the team helpers, the Soigneurs, who are there with the bottles. So difficult on a city centre circuit. A, to try and take a bottle at these kind of speeds. A, to do that, and B, to actually remember to keep yourself well fueled.
I'd be surprised if riders take bottles today. For me personally, I would. It's not super hot, and we're probably going to be 2 hours of racing, just under. So I think a lot of them will be able to get through this on 2 bottles that they start with. Of course, there is the potential for riders to lose bottles. You know, if they hit a bump in the road, the bottle bounces out of the bottle cage. So it's nice to have the option of being able to take one. But I think, as you said, with the speeds being so high, particularly where that feed zone is, and having just gone through a full gas sprint, I think maybe they won't take the bottles.
You're seeing riders now take an opportunity. Now we've gone through that first intermediate sprint. Take on some gels, take on some fuel, nutrition. As soon as you see one rider do it, that's your cue.
Absolutely, because you know that if there are riders sitting, particularly at the front of the bunch, taking something to eat, then they're unlikely to then start attacking. So that's a really good opportunity to make sure that you take fuel on yourself. And obviously I just said that riders will be unlikely to take bottles potentially from team helpers at the side of the road. That doesn't mean that they will not be eating and drinking, because in this stage, when there are so many accelerations to make, so much energy expenditure going on, they need to remember to keep eating and keep drinking, and it can be difficult to find an opportunity to do that on this kind of circuit. So every time the pace eases, they need to be making sure they're taking something on board, and we can see now riders just reaching for their back pockets, taking those bottles, making sure that they're having something. And as you just said, when you see one rider do it, it's a cue for everyone to do it, and so there are now multiple riders near the front just making sure they're topping up their fuel supplies.
Reaching into the pockets, the riders in the red jersey of InnoX Mobility on the far left side, also taking an opportunity to communicate with the sports directors and their teammates. There we get confirmation. Ali Wollaston taking the 10 points ahead of Kat Ferguson, Sarah Van Dam, Megan Jastrab and Anna Henderson. Ali Wollaston taking 3 bonus seconds, Kat Ferguson with the 2 bonus seconds, and Sarah Van Dam taking the 1 bonus second. So now Wollaston, the rider from New Zealand, has edged herself closer. She's now only 2 seconds in arrears to Kat Ferguson, the 19-year-old British rider.
I think you're right that the team of Sarah Tizet Pro Cycling are trying to kind of cement that 5th place on the general classification for Sarah Van Dam. She picked up 1 bonus second there, so that actually now puts her a second ahead of Megan Jastrab and Cecilie Uttrup-Ludwig in that general classification, because she was sitting on the same time as them at the start of this stage.
And now she's only 11 seconds in arrears to Rihanna Marcus, and so we know she's got a good finish. We know she can sprint. If she can keep this consistency in the next intermediate sprints, you never know what might happen.
Yeah, exactly. I think, you know, as we both mentioned, possibly the time gaps between 3rd and 4th are possibly a bit big. Though saying that, the way that the peloton has the potential to stretch out on Glasgow Green, you might actually see gaps appearing between wheels, between riders on that final lap, on that final sprint. And of course, as soon as those gaps appear, there will be time gaps given at the finish. And so, you know, if a rider ahead of you suddenly, through, you know, potentially just fatigue, lets a gap open up to the wheel ahead, then you might see these small time gaps appearing in the final positioning. And you know, if that happens, then there is the potential for there to be slightly more of a shift in terms of the overall standings.
The difficulty comes, you've only got 2 laps now until the next intermediate sprint, so there's not much time to recover. There is Kat Ferguson.
they look to be having a bit of a chat, and I wonder if you know, they saw what happened on that first sprint. So all of those riders from Movistar are all grouped together. They're just assessing what happened potentially, thinking how did we approach. Oh, she's bouncing her back wheel. Has she got a rear wheel puncture maybe?
Let's take a look. She's just checking her bike, checking the wheels. You could just see the little bouncing up and down, just checking the tyre pressure. Seemingly on that close-up from our camera motorbike looks okay.
But maybe she's assessing what everything about that. The riders are so analytical, and they will assess what's happened in a sprint. So she's just had that first opportunity to do the intermediate sprint. So not only might they be discussing, you know, how did we approach this sprint? How did we lead it out? Where did I take it up? How many meters from the finish? What's the wind doing? So did I take it up too early, too late? Did I really want to be first wheel into that corner, or should I have been in the same position as Ali Wollaston and been second wheel and tried to launch off the back rather than taking it from the front? There's things like that. But then also, how does the surface actually feel on that sprint finish of Glasgow Green with the pressure that I've started with? Is that something that I have the opportunity to change? And there are so many different factors and analysis that could be taking place here.
Here's a little look as to what Kat Ferguson was doing. Just out of the saddle, bouncing up and down, just checking the tyre pressure. She seems excellent, doesn't she? Big move from Sarah Tizet Pro Cycling in the red and blue jersey. This looks like Burlova, the rider from Czechia, who's trying to get away and inject some difficulty into the race. Skylar Schneider, the rider from SD Works Pro Time, the American rider. It's just keeping a control under of everything. In the yellow jerseys, that's one of the riders from Visma Lease bike. In the blue jersey, it's Dominika Wlodaszek. There's Emma Norskau in the colours of Lidl Trek. This was a ferocious attack up Finniston Street.
I think the fact that we didn't see Lorena Wiebes actually try and contest that intermediate sprint shows that she's obviously not that interested necessarily in the points jersey. She's going to let the general classification contenders battle out the intermediate sprints. I think she will definitely not let them battle out the finish. I think that's what she's interested in. So I think the fact that we didn't see her contest that intermediate sprint shows that the reason she's keeping herself and her team are keeping her up near the front of this race is purely safety. It's purely to ensure that she stands the best chance possible of being up at the front of the race at the finish.
For AG Insurance Soudal, they've lost Gladys Verhulst Wild due to that crash on Friday. Also Kim LaCourte, Stage 1 winner into red car, abandoned the stage yesterday. They've got 4 riders who remain in the race. But when you take a look who they've got Farva Bastiansen, they've got Julia Borgstrom, the Swedish rider, Anja Lau and Alexandra Manley. It's a small but mighty team.
Yeah.
What can Alex Manley do on a day like today?
I think the problem for me is in terms of the sprint finish we expect. I can't necessarily look past Lorena Wiebes, but there's opportunity here, and I think particularly there is the opportunity for riders to slip away and get into a smaller group and then potentially contest some sprints from a smaller group. And as you said, they've got an extremely talented team here, and they're opportunists. We've said that numerous times about them, and so I don't think, especially having won the green jersey on the first stage and then unfortunately lost it due to you know, that early crash on stage 2 from Kim LaCourte, I think they'll want to show themselves at the front of the race again today.
There's a regrouping on the left side from Visma Lease bike. Imogen Wolf up towards the front, the 19-year-old British rider from Barnsley. Still Lucy Harris chases away back on, as does Tamsin Miller.
It's tantalisingly close, isn't it? And it looks like they're going to regain contact, and then there's another acceleration and the gap grows again.
At one point, the elastic has to snap, but these two riders are so strong, they're able to make their way back on. Towards the back in the white jersey, that's Anna Morris of the Great Britain national team. They leave West George Street, head back towards and into the easterly part of this course, back towards Glasgow Green.
And I think, again, so we mentioned that the team of Canyon Trams on De Crypto might have some intentions today, and we see them actually massed at the front on the left-hand side of your shot there. So I do think that they'll be looking to show themselves today after what happened yesterday.
Imogen Wolf banks it into that sweeping right-hand corner. This Melissa bike, for them, in terms of the stage, of the overall classification, the highest placed rider is indeed Imogen Wolf, the 19-year-old, but surely their big ambition today, sorry, just see Imogen Wolf move forward, just having a little chat with her teammate. Martina Fidanza is an excellent sprinter. You can see her start to move forward in that yellow jersey as they enter back into Glasgow Green. But for Fidanza, she's been quiet over the last few stages, and today's the day to show what she can do and to try and go for that stage victory.
Yeah, I think they probably will have been looking towards this stage all week, and we've seen how unpredictable this race has been so far, and so none of the teams are going to go into this stage thinking, oh well, we don't stand a chance in the sprint finish because Lorena Wiebes is here, because as we've seen over the last few days, we maybe expected Lorena Wiebes to be at the finish contesting the sprint, and she hasn't been, so anything can happen. So the teams just have to take the stage on and prepare themselves as though they can win the stage, and I think that's what we're seeing here.
Crossing the line, 5 laps to go, 45.4 kilometres remain. CF Education Oatley in the pink jersey who crosses the line. Also Visma Liesebike, the yellow jerseys of the Dutch squad. The next time around when they pass the finish line will be another intermediate sprint. Sarah Roy moves forward, as does Mirka Narven. The far right side, that is Megan Jastrab. And we take a look at the Lloyds Attack the Track. Everybody can get involved with this. You can race the riders virtually. Look at this. There's been so much going on today in the park here. You've had Family Cycling Festival. You've of course got the Lloyds Attack the Track.
He was giving it some, wasn't he?
He was giving some beans, absolutely he was. Certainly taking place throughout the whole day, right in Glasgow Green, all the way until 5 p.m. Lots of other fun, free activities for the family. Chance to ride on earlier on the same traffic-free closed road route around Glasgow city centre. That's pretty special, isn't it? And I think this is the beauty of cycling, that any other sport, you couldn't just go and play at Old Trafford just before United play.
I love it.
Whereas here, the roads are closed, you've got an opportunity to ride closed roads on your bike. How often do you get to do that?
It's great, isn't it? It's so inclusive, and Glasgow, I think, are really excellent at putting on these activities alongside the major championship events that they host, and with the aim of getting people involved, getting people onto bikes, and just really encouraging everyone and making it fun, and for the whole family. There are children's activities, there are adult activities. There really is something for everyone, and I think the UK are very good as well, just as a country of making it accessible in terms of having these events alongside the major championships. For example, with Ride London, where you have the free cycle ahead of the Criterium event, when that event has happened over the last few years, and families can go and ride around the same circuit that the pros are going to race later that afternoon, and just really feel part of the whole festival that's going on. we can see again, actually, as we're now approaching the next intermediate sprint, again, it's the team on the right-hand side are Team Picnic Post NL, obviously with Charlotte Kool in their ranks. And then on the left-hand side of the screen, once again, we saw FDJ Suez, who will obviously be hoping that Ali Wollaston can repeat what she did 2 laps ago and take an extra bonus second ahead of Kat Ferguson.
Back in 2019, Glasgow was awarded the UCI Bike City status and, of course, has an expanding network of segregated cycle lanes, particularly in the city centre. And there we see the virtual general classification. Kat Ferguson continues to lead, but it's now 2 seconds to Ali Wollaston, 14 seconds to Caroline Swinkles, Rihanna Marquez at 42, with Sarah Van Dam at 53 seconds. Still so close. 2 more intermediate sprints to come, and of course the bonus seconds at the finish line. Kaylee Barbieri, the rider on the front for Picnic Post NL, flicks the elbow in that indigo and orange jersey. Just behind her is Megan Jastrab. Esme Peppercamp is there, as is Charlotte Kool. Here in Glasgow, you've got the National Cycle Network route, the 75, which is the Clyde Walkway, which runs from the city centre along the River Clyde, connected to Edinburgh. You've got the cycling hubs and places like Freewill North, which is on Glasgow Green, offer inclusive cycling and community support. In general, the support from Events Scotland, which is part of Visit Scotland, the National Tourism and Events Organisation for Scotland, they always are working to make this a destination for the perfect stage for any event, securing and supporting the exciting portfolio of sporting and cultural events. We've seen that over the years, haven't we, particularly over the last 11 years in terms of cycling events, big cycling events. Of course, always providing the funding opportunities and access to resources and information to develop the industry. It's always raising Scotland's profile as one of the leading event destinations. But in turn, they want to try and attract more visitors to our shores.
You could see the effort there on the faces of some of the riders, just trying to ensure that they keep themselves and their teams just right at the front of the peloton as we approach this sprint lap. The kilometres on this lap tick by so quickly that everyone just has to remain vigilant the whole time.
Serengeti Pro Cycling once again up towards the front. Milena de Zutter is sitting in third wheel. She's just communicating with her teammates. How they've amassed all 5 of them up towards the front. Franziska Browser at the back of the line. We've also got Jasulska, who is there, Burlova, Sarah Van Dam. I have to say, for Serengeti Pro Cycling, the way that they've ridden, and they've always been there but kept the powder dry. They haven't got a podium on a stage as of yet, but they've been riding well consistently, and having Sarah Van Dam, the Canadian rider, sitting 5th place currently in the general classification is a huge sign for that team, because they're a World Tour squad. They're losing one of their big title sponsors at the end of this year after 10 years of sponsorship, and so for them, the riders need these results, the team need the results.
To try and attract new sponsors and ensure that they can continue. And we've seen it, that the sport can be slightly fragile in terms of sponsors coming and going, and you know, I think the team are doing a really good job here at showing themselves, at showing what the investment in the team, in the sport can do, and so every result matters, it really does.
Inside the final 40 kilometres. If you're just joining us, welcome along. This is the 4th and final stage of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. We're in Glasgow, starting and finishing in Glasgow Green. An 82.2 kilometre stage. but a big day in terms of the general classification. 3 intermediate sprints in total, all 3 intermediate sprints coming with bonus seconds for the first 3 riders across the line. We've already had 1 intermediate sprint, and that was won by Ali Wollaston, who took the 3 bonus seconds ahead of Kat Ferguson, now the race leader in the green jersey. Sarah Van Dam picking up 1 bonus second, with Jastrab and Henderson picking up the remaining points. Of course, the intermediate sprints coming with points too, so Wollaston taking 10 points, Ferguson with the 7, Van Dam with the 5. We're heading towards our next intermediate sprint, the second intermediate sprint. They'll cross the line with 33.6 kilometers to go, and you can see FDJ Suez, who clearly believe that Ali Wollaston can take the general classification and overhaul and overthrow Kat Ferguson. The French World Tour squad are well dialed. They've got themselves well set up. This is Amber Kraku's on the front. We've not seen any attacks or major attacks so far, because the pace has been relentless through this city centre circuit. It's an 8.4 kilometre circuit, 10 laps in total, but we're set for a very thrilling finale. It's close at the top, only 2 seconds separating the top 2 in the general classification, 14 seconds separating the first place rider Ferguson and Caroline Swinkels, who is 3rd, currently the rider from UAE team ADQ. This is the conclusion. It's Lizzie Deignan's final Lloyds Tour of Britain Women, a rider who has won this race on 2 occasions in the past. The former world champion and Olympic silver medalist from London 2012 will race this stage race for the last time in her career before she retires at the end of this season after a long, illustrious career. My name's Hannah Walker, alongside me is Hayley Simmons. Now we're starting to see the teams amass themselves towards the front, get the cohesion back, get some organisation back, and the Great Britain national team are once again moving forward with April Tacey, all for Millie Cousins.
They're working really well as a unit, and each one of these sprint laps, this is obviously the second of 3 intermediate sprint laps, is being treated as a lead out, as though we would expect to see normally at the finish of a race, and it's because of how valuable these bonus seconds are. We've mentioned it through the week that this race has previously been won by the tightest of margins, a single second, notably on 1 occasion. And at the moment, in the virtual general classification, we have 2 seconds between our top 2 riders, Kat Ferguson and Ali Wollaston. So again, we're going to see an incredibly exciting finish to the race, and the race potentially being decided by a handful of seconds.
Flora Perkins shouted to April Tacey, up the tempo, up the pace. We need to click it up a gear. We need to add a couple of kilometers per hour here, because we're about to get overhauled as the washing machine effect comes into play. Marta Lack is at the front in that purple jersey. Millie Cousins is right on the wheel of Perkins. Cousins is on the wheel of Perkins, sorry, at the back here. As they enter and make that right-hand turn, they're heading towards Glasgow Green very shortly. Don't forget, they'll go across the line with 33.6 kilometers to go.
The entrance into that right-hand corner is crucial, and obviously the riders are getting a chance to see it on numerous occasions, but I think after that right-hand corner, because you're now in Glasgow Green and it's narrower, they need to get the position set by that corner.
French squad inject some pace. Ali Wollaston in that red jersey is trying to move forward. She's lost the lead out here. This is almost like we're coming into the finish of the race. This is our second intermediate sprint. Lorena Wiebes in the white jersey, the European champion, is coming into this sweeping right-hand bend. She's in prime position. She's got Kat Ferguson, who's on the wheel in the green jersey. Can Kat Ferguson try and launch and come off the back of the wheel of the European champion? Wiebes takes a look round over the left-hand shoulder. It's Ferguson who's sprinting, but Wollaston, oh, this is going to be throw for the line. Close on the line between Wollaston and Ferguson. It looks as though it did indeed go to Wollaston. We'll get confirmation on that, but that's going to be a photo finish. Wiebes getting herself involved in that intermediate sprint, and that was interesting from the European champion here into Glasgow Green. 4 laps remaining, 35.9 kilometers to go, 7 laps complete.
I suspect, and I could be very wrong, I suspect Lorena Wiebes was almost doing a practice for the finish.
Wow, that was close. I think
it was
looking
Wollaston.
on that front shot, It was Wollaston who just edged that.
We wait for confirmation from the photograph from that, but I feel like Lorena Wiebes, because it is a bit more of a technical finish, it's not just a long straight run into a sprint. I wonder if Lorena Wiebes was just trying to get a feel for the best position in order to attack that sprint, whether to go from the front or to try and be tucked in behind. And now, of course, that's we've just passed the midpoint of the race, so it gives her an opportunity to sight it, but then also maybe sit back for the next few laps and recover a little bit before getting to do it at the finale.
Of course, on to our 7th lap now. Towards the front, Rihanna Marcus and Megan Jastrab. This is the rider from USA for Picnic Postonel. This is a replay of this sprint. Kat Ferguson, she had the perfect wheel to try and follow, a lunge and a throw for the line. Ali Wollaston, I think, might have just sneaked the bonus seconds there. Caroline Swinkles, as of yet, hasn't scored and taken any bonus seconds. She's the rider in the white jersey who is currently sitting in 3rd overall in the general classification. One of her nearest rivals is Rihanna Marcus, and Marcus is hunting Swinkles down. Oh, and a crash on the... Oh, dear me. A crash on the right-hand side. One rider suffering a crash. Dear me. One rider down. That's one of the riders from Picnic Postonel. Caroline Swinkles has been keeping a pretty low profile. Oh, we see that crash again. The rider from Picnic Postonel in the indigo and orange jersey just clipping the curb, clipping the cone there and then onto the curb. Sincerely hope that that rider from Picnic Postonel is indeed okay.
At this point in the race, everyone is so tired and fatigued, and they're all just fighting for those crucial positions as the course narrows in places, and unfortunately it can lead to incidents like that.
Loretta Hansen of Lidl Trek in the red, blue and yellow jersey makes an acceleration. She wants to keep and make sure that this pace is high. Just on a wheel is Zoe Backstead and Eleanor Backstead. Backstead sisters racing for rival teams. In the purple jersey, that's Quinty Ton. Purple jersey in the, or is it Amber Pate, sorry. Purple jersey in the grey bib shorts. This is Esme Peppercamp, who we're just looking at there, number 125, and here is the virtual general classification. Kat Ferguson now has a solitary second to Ali Wollaston. Caroline Swinkles is now at 16 seconds, with Rihanna Marcus at 44 seconds. Sarah Van Dam not taking any bonus seconds then. She's now at 55 seconds. Wollaston is slowly but surely clawing her way back. One intermediate sprint at a time.
It's interesting to see the different approaches of the two teams here, of FDJ Suez versus Movistar team. We've seen into both of those intermediate sprints, the team of FDJ Suez have almost done a full lead out. They've had the entire team around Ali Wollaston.
And big attack here from Imogen Wolf. Injection of pace, and it's the rider Sofia Bertazzola from UAE Team ADQ who follows.
The team of FDJ Suez have really done a full lead out for Ali Wollaston, and as though it's been the finish of a stage to try and help her get those intermediate seconds. We have seen the teammates of Kat Ferguson, the other riders from Movistar team around her, having a chat with her, but they haven't had that coordinated lead out ahead of her. They've left her a little bit more to kind of follow the wheels herself, and I don't know whether that's fatigue from the efforts of the previous days where they've worked very, very well for her, whether it's the fact that this circuit, maybe the riders that they have don't feel quite as home on this style of circuit as maybe some of the other stages, or the team of FDJ Suez, or whether they're maybe saving their efforts as a team for the finale, where there are more bonus seconds on offer.
Quinty Tarn in that purple jersey on the far left side. De Riedman and Nienke Veenhoven up towards the front. Here is a shot of that finish, a throw for the line. Look how close that was between Ali Wollaston in the red jersey and Kat Ferguson in the green jersey. That's almost like we're looking at a stage finish. It's so hot.
It is
so
so
hotly contested.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's due to the exciting nature of this race and the fact that the bonus seconds are so important. But what I actually loved in that photo finish as well was the expressions on the faces of the spectators at the side, mouths agape at the shock and trying to work out which of the riders took the first place across the line.
Christina Berlover has got some good support and some good fans at the roadside. The Czechia flag flying high. When you've done such an all-out sprint because of how vital those bonus seconds are at the intermediate sprint, and then you only have, what, 800 metres before you get to Finniston Street, that's where the climb starts, then you make that right-hand turn onto Argyle Street, then onto St. Vincent Street before you crest the top and then start to descend. How difficult is that physically to recover from such an all-out effort? You've put yourself deep into the red at the top of your limits. Your heart rate is, what, 190, 195 beats a minute.
I'm laughing at you because I have no sprinting ability whatsoever. Oh, I wish I could sprint. The energy systems that these sprinters are able to access is not something my physiology has ever allowed me to do. But the repeated sprints in this race are incredible. Like you said, there's just constant accelerations. For people who maybe weren't joining us when the stage started, this circuit's 8.4 kilometres. There are 12 90-degree corners per lap. They have, on average, less than a kilometre between each of these accelerations, and then they have these intermediate sprints, which are going to be even faster. The toll that it's taking on these riders, they need to just try and do anything that they can to recover in between each of these sprints.
The Olympic champion Kristen Faulkner at the back here in the blue jersey. Just in front of her is Anna Morris. Let's think about riders, whilst they might not be going for the general classification to win the green jersey, let's think about riders who we should be watching out for a stage victory today into Glasgow green. Because there are several teams with ambitions to try and go home with the stage victory, but they don't have any chance to go for the general classification. This is the end of a stage race. You've had 3 days of racing in the legs so far, and you can see here the green jersey. Kat Ferguson requires a bike change. It has to be slick and as fast as possible. Where is the mechanic? The mechanic delivers her spare bike. She's onto the spare bike. The mechanic's going to give her a little push. She's back underway. Where are her teammates? That was as quick as it possibly could have been for the leader of the Lloyds Tour of Britain women. You can see here, just up ahead, she looks over her left-hand shoulder. She's got Floortje Mackay, who's just ahead of her. She pulls over into the left-hand side of the road. A cyclocross dismount, drops the bike well.
Cyclocross skills coming to the fore there, but we suspected, her teammates, we suspected that she might have been slightly unhappy with something on her bike, whether she did feel that she either had a slow puncture or that the pressure wasn't right.
And that was around 3 laps ago. So maybe she's had to get through with whatever that potential mechanical problem was, because she knew how important those 2 intermediate sprints would be. She's got an opportunity now to make her way through the convoy. She's in the cars. The sports director hands her a bottle. The commissaire car is just in front of her in the white car. She wants to try and get rid of the bottle. She needs to try and just put it into there she goes. She throws it to fans at the roadside.
I can see a rider just up ahead, and I'm not sure whether that's one of her teammates just waiting for her in the convoy. But you know, they have the radios, there will be the communication. The Movistar girls up ahead will know that Kat Ferguson has had to have that bike change.
The pace at the front has been lifted. Everybody fighting for position, everybody knowing how crucial the next 27.6 kilometers of racing are going to be. You can hear the toots of the horns, all signaling and letting the cars in front know that a rider is coming. Look at the way that she just throws the bike into that sweeping right-hand bend. The team car's going to follow her all the way through Glasgow Green here. Towards the front, it's the yellow and black jerseys of Visma Lease bike. Visma Lease bike B's swarm to the front, as does Dominika Wlodacek in that blue jersey of UAE Team ADQ. Laura Gillespie is there, the former Irish champion. Look at the way that Ferguson just is throwing her way through Glasgow Green, round these corners. She's got a teammate just up ahead. This looks as though it's Floortje Mackay, the incredibly experienced Dutch woman.
That was incredibly well executed, and it was the perfect time to take that bike change. It was, you know, this is a lap in between two intermediate sprint laps, and so she had to do it then. I do wonder if she just wasn't quite happy with perhaps the pressures in her tyres or something similar to that on the nature of this finish, and she felt that maybe there could be something optimized a little bit better in order for her to fight as best she can at the next intermediate sprint and the finish.
7 laps complete, 26.9 kilometers of racing remaining. You go through the feed zone here. For Kat Ferguson, she's so in tune with her bike.
Yeah.
If there's a slight problem, she will be able to feel it.
Yeah, and there wasn't anything obvious to us looking at the images from the side, but clearly she's been feeling it for a few laps. We saw her bounce that rear tyre, so I think there's just something that she wasn't quite happy with. And when the margins are so tight, it's so important to just be completely comfortable and happy with every aspect of your setup.
The sun is shining here in Glasgow, in this iconic city. Dry roads. Was there any chance of rain today? As we get a little replay of this bike change from Kat Ferguson. Before we get to the weather, I just want to point out how calm, cool and collected this is from the 19-year-old and the leader of the Lloyds Tour of Britain women. Gently place the bike on the ground. Wait for the mechanic, a big throw from the mechanic. Look at that, it's like a pit stop.
It was very well executed, and you know, you could see her cyclocross skills with the dismount and how she just placed that bike down, got ready for the bike change. Obviously they have the opportunity to communicate via the radios, so they obviously had a plan, I think, of where they were going to execute that bike change, the right place in the circuit to do it. And I think it came off a slight descent as well, which gave her the opportunity to hold, you know, a good push off from the mechanic. It's not like he was trying to push her off up a climb or something like that, because that would have been obviously a lot more catastrophic. So it was definitely a more planned bike change than a panic of, I've just had a puncture and I need something now. Which again kind of contributes to my feeling that there was just something that she wasn't quite happy with, rather than a mechanical failure that had just happened.
Back to my initial question before we saw that replay of Kat to just dissect the bike change. What was the weather forecast this morning? Was there any chance of rain or not? Because that would have had an impact on tyre pressure.
Yeah, a few days ago, yes. A few days ago, I think it was looking as though we could have rain all week, actually. But this morning, when I looked at the weather forecast, and of course we're in Glasgow, so the Weatherstone is potentially a more accurate way of checking the weather. Let's see whether the stone is wet or dry when we look out the window. But the forecast has said that it will remain dry, some sun, wind's not too bad, but actually the wind is not normally so much of a factor in such a city centre circuit, because they're a lot more sheltered than they have been on some of the other stages. But I think I mean, I say this with yesterday being quite so recent, where we did have such bad weather, but I think actually they've been quite lucky in terms of the weather for this race overall, because stage one it was raining on the sign-on, but then as soon as the race rolled out, the sun shone. Stage two was dry, and so yesterday was the day where we did have that bad weather.
At the back here, you can see two of the riders from Picnic Postinel on the far left side in the indigo and orange jerseys. That is Esme Pepperkamp and Megan Jastrab. Looking at the bike with no frame number, Megan Jastrab looks to have had a bike change.
I think it was Megan Jastrab who potentially maybe we saw come down. I'm not sure. We haven't had confirmation of that, but that would fit with her having had a bike change.
Great to see that Megan Jastrab is back up and underway. She's into the rear of the peloton. Jastrab came into the day 6th overall at 52 seconds. Sarah Van Dam has pulled away by 1 second currently, so for Megan Jastrab, and we've seen she's got a great finish on her, but for Picnic Postinel, they've also got Charlotte Cole, an excellent sprinter, and she'll be looking to try and deliver a stage victory today, which brings me to other riders to watch out for. We've already mentioned that Lorena Wiebes is one of the stage favourites for the victory today. She's the European champion of SD Works Pro Time, 26-year-old, the winner of this year's Milano Sanremo, first edition. Charlotte Cole, a big favourite for today as well. Who else are we watching out for, and which teams?
We're definitely looking out for Kat Ferguson of Movistar team. I know obviously she's currently wearing the general classification jersey, having taken yesterday's stage, but given the bonus seconds that are on offer at the finish, her and Ali Wollaston are certainly going to go head-to-head for that. I think there are other teams that are definitely going to be looking for a stage win, especially the team of Alula Jayco. They've not had those victories yet this season, and they'll be desperate to try and make something work. And you know, they've got the likes of Ruby Rosamund Gannon in their squad. She won a stage of the Lloyd Tour of Britain Women last year, and they've definitely got the ability to make something happen today. So there are quite a lot of individual riders who could try and take a bit of an opportunity, and who are very fast finishers in their own right.
As you say, they're still yet to win any race this season. We're, what is it, 8th of June, and still haven't won a race. And so for Alula Jayco, given the fact that they've got so much talent within their roster, they really want to try and deliver something today.
Yeah, absolutely, and they've got the ability, we know that. We've seen that with results over the past seasons. It's just not quite all come together for them yet this season. Quinty Ton has obviously had an excellent race so far.
Absolutely.
She started the day 56 seconds in arrears, 8th on the general classification, but they really will be looking for that victory, and so they're going to maybe have to have a discussion about who's feeling the best, who might be the fastest finisher on this circuit.
In the pink jersey, it's Nina Burton on the left-hand side. Just in her wheel is Babette van der Wolf. In the white jersey, just behind that is Aude Bianic and Floortje Mackay, who's got the green jersey and the leader of this race, who has a 1 second advantage to Ali Wollaston. That's Kat Ferguson. In the purple jersey, Marta Lack moves forward with the European champion on a wheel. Now we're getting to the business end of the race, but it feels like this stage, this 4th and final stage, has been business all day.
This is a change now, though. Looking at the shot of the front of the peloton there, we're obviously in a sprint lap. The last 2 times we've had sprint laps, at the end of lap 4 and lap 6, by this point in the circuit, the team of FDJ Suez have been on the front. The whole team have been there. They've been in a line. We've seen Ali Wollaston there in the red jersey, ready to contest that sprint. At that shot that we just had, I didn't see an FDJ Suez jersey. What I did see were the Movistar jerseys on the left-hand side of the screen, and they haven't necessarily been there as a team on the 2 previous sprint laps.
Do you think that they, knowing they've come 1 second, only 1 second to Kat Ferguson, will maybe try and risk it all for the final, because it's 10, 6 and 4 bonus seconds for the first 3 riders.
Yeah.
And given you'll have Lorena Wiebe sprinting, Charlotte Cole sprinting, to name but 2 of the world's fastest sprinters currently. Chiara Consoni will be wanting to get herself involved. She's being moved up currently in that pink jersey on the pink bike by Cecilia Uchud-Ludwig. Ali Wollaston can challenge these sprinters.
Yeah, I was going to say it is a risk, because Ali Wollaston would need to place in that final sprint, and she would need Kat Ferguson to not place. So, you know, Lorena Wiebe could take the win in the 10 bonus seconds. Charlotte Cole could be second with 6 bonus seconds. But then Ali Wollaston would then have to take the 4 bonus seconds, for example. So there's 1 second between those top 2 at the moment. So Ali Wollaston needs to find a second somewhere. Does she try and take it now? Or does she try and save a bit of energy and go for the final sprint? And some of it will come down to how she's feeling. And actually, as I say that, we've now got an FDJ Suez rider there, second wheel behind one of the Mobstar riders, and actually 3 the rest of the team are there just on your left-hand side, and Ali Wollaston was tucked nicely in with her team. So maybe they were just giving it a few more kilometres just to try and save a little bit of energy, and now they're coming to the front knowing that that right-hand corner that leads them onto Glasgow Green is swiftly approaching.
Exactly 2 kilometres until we get to that 3rd and final intermediate sprint on Glasgow Green. It's a game of patience, poise. Now FDJ Suez in the navy blue and red jersey start to move forward with Wollaston. Wollaston's got 1 rider who's on the wheel, and that's Marie Linette. Just acting as the sweeper, number 24 here is Alessia Vigiglia, the 25-year-old Italian rider. She's done an awful lot of work thus far. On the front, it's Amber Crack, followed by Jade Ville, the former French champion. You can just see on the cuffs of her sleeves, denoting she's a former French champion. Celia Jerry is sitting in 3rd wheel. Wollaston's on the wheel in that red jersey. Marie Linette acting as the sweeper. Looks as though one of the riders from Picnic Postonel has a puncture. This looks like Josie Nelson, the rider who took an incredible 2nd place yesterday on the stage. Nelson will be looking to try and have a bike change as quick as possible, a quick pit stop, because the tempo and the speeds here are absolutely ferocious as we come into this 3rd and final intermediate sprint. FDJ Suez arrive right on time here into the park. They've got Wollaston in prime position. Kat Ferguson is glued to the wheel of the New Zealander. It's Marie Linette, followed by Celia Jerry. The cowbells ring. Marie Linette hands over to Ali Wollaston. She's into the hoardings. She takes the sweeping right-hand bend. Don't forget, 3 seconds. It's only 1 second in it. Now it's going to be one of her teammates sprinting for the bonus seconds, but by the looks of things, Ali Wollaston is going to come through and take these seconds. Or is she? Yes, she is. She takes it by a bike length to Kat Ferguson. Another 3 bonus seconds. And going into the final, these 2 riders are level on time for the general classification. This has been a superb defence of this green jersey from the 19-year-old Kat Ferguson, the British rider from Movistar. 2 seconds, but currently Wollaston is too strong, too powerful. She's got the speed and she's got an incredible team around her. That being said, Ferguson is not going to let this jersey go without a fight.
No, and actually that's one thing that struck me yesterday. We had 1 intermediate sprint yesterday in Kelso, and Ali Wollaston overpowered Kat Ferguson on that occasion. And then when it came into the finish, I don't know whether it was the weather conditions, the accumulated fatigue from the stage, but Ali Wollaston didn't look as though she had it in her to contest that finish. She almost, you know, Kat Ferguson and Josie Nelson had a little bit of daylight. It wasn't, you know, a photo finish. Ali Wollaston wasn't right on their wheel. She looked quite fatigued in terms of her body language at the end of that stage. And having overthrown Kat Ferguson at the intermediate sprint. So Ali Wollaston has now taken the maximum bonus seconds on these 3 intermediate sprints so far today. Will she have that same ferocity, that same energy, that intensity coming in to the final sprint, or will Kat Ferguson be able to sneak ahead? I'm not sure. Kat Ferguson looks as though she's really fighting at these intermediate sprints. And to be honest, we couldn't be in for a more exciting finale. And of course, looking at the stage finish, you're going to have more riders contesting. You're going to have the likes of Lorena Wiebes, Charlotte Kool, all going for that stage win, as well as the fight between Ali Wollaston and Kat Ferguson for the coveted green jersey of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women.
16.2 kilometres of racing remain. If you're just joining us, so far you've missed a blockbuster. The fight for the intermediate sprints and those bonus seconds have been hotly contested. It's Ali Wollaston who's won all 3 of those intermediate sprints, taking 9 bonus seconds and closing the 3-second deficit to equal time to Kat Ferguson, the leader in the general classification. Both teams have worked superbly. Kat Ferguson of Movistar, her team have worked so well to protect her. She's had a bike change. She's chased her way back on, and the 19-year-old British rider has kept herself so calm, cool, collected. Ali Wollaston. Here we get the confirmation. Wollaston taking the 10 points in the points classification. Most importantly, she takes the 3 bonus seconds. Kat Ferguson taking 7 points and the 2 bonus seconds. Sila Jarry taking 5 points and the 1 bonus second. Gasparini taking the other points there. The most important, aside from the points, is the bonus seconds. This is a stage starting and finishing in Glasgow. We're in Glasgow Green. 10 laps of an 8.4 kilometre circuit, 82.2 kilometres of racing. It's our 4th and final stage of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. It couldn't be any closer going into our final. 15.1 kilometres of racing remain, and at the finish, 10, 6 and 4 bonus seconds are available for the first 3 riders. It's not just the general classification hopefuls who will be fighting for those bonus seconds, but a stage victory is on offer. We've got some of the world's best sprinters here. Charlotte Kool of Picnic Postinel, Lorena Wiebes, the European champion. You can just see her teammates in the purple jerseys lining themselves up on the left-hand side of the road. That's the European champion in the white jersey with the blue bands around the chest. You've got the Olympic road race champion who is moving forward for EF Education Odeley. And this is getting itself set to be one of the most incredible finals that we have ever seen in the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women history. The closest margin we have ever seen, the closest winning margin we've ever seen is 1 second. That was back in 2022 when Elisa Longo Borghini won the general classification 1 second ahead of Grace Brown. Today, we're going into this final with 2 riders on equal time. Get yourself set, because this is going to be spectacular. My name's Hannah Walker. Alongside me is Hayley Simmons to take us through the final 15 kilometres here. You can see these 2 riders are going to watch each other like hawks. Ali Wollaston is the rider in the red jersey, number 22. Kat Ferguson is the rider in the green jersey, number 92 of Movistar. Wollaston is just going to track and follow every move of Ferguson. There we get the virtual classification. Ferguson and Wollaston tied on time, with Caroline Swinkels at 18 seconds, Rihanna Marquez at 46 seconds, and Sarah Van Dam in 5th place at 57 seconds. It couldn't be any closer, Hayley. No, you couldn't have wished for a better ending to a race rather than us, because this is a stressful situation for FDJ Suez and Movistar. They cannot put a foot wrong now.
No, absolutely. It's all going to be about how they approach these closing laps of the race. And we've said it time and again this week about the courses as they've been designed by the organisation here, and what a thrilling 4 days of racing it's led to. And we knew that this Glasgow circuit was going to be super exciting and just give us fireworks, but I'm not sure that either of us expected it to be this close, this intense, and it's all going to be about how the teams approach these closing kilometres. I think what's interesting in looking at the 3 intermediate sprints that we've had so far, Lorena Wiebes, I say contested, she didn't fully contest, but she was third in the intermediate sprint, the second intermediate sprint that we saw, whereas she didn't feature in the first intermediate sprint or in the most recent one. Now, I think that the reason that she featured in that second intermediate sprint was that she was testing out the finish. She wanted to know, where is it best for me to come into this finale? Should I be first wheel? Should I be third wheel? Should I go from the front, or should I try and accelerate off a wheel? So I think the reason that she was there on the end of lap 6 was a tester for the finale. So that indicates to me that she wants this stage win today, which is exactly what we expected, but it's just more evidence.
And this race hasn't gone the way of SD Works Pro Time by any stretch of your imagination. I mean, Wiebes was third on the opening stage into red car. Yesterday she was right up there to try and fight for a stage victory when that big crash occurred with 56 kilometers to go. She waited with her teammate Barbara Gorishki, and by the way, I've got an update on Barbara Gorishki that the team have announced she's recovering well after the crash in the third stage of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. She slept well, is stiff but still in pain, and does not appear to have suffered any serious injuries. Wiebes and Marquez will start today after their crashes yesterday, and Lorena is motivated but does have some bruises, so she's carrying some injuries from the crash. But for Lorena Wiebes, we've seen, as you mentioned, Hayley, she's been testing herself in that second intermediate sprint, just getting the line, getting the flow of that running into Glasgow Green.
Yeah, and she looked in great form. I was watching one of the replays of that second sprint, and rather than watch Kat Ferguson and Ali Wollaston towards the front, I was trying to keep a bit of an eye on Lorena Wiebes crossing the line in third, just to see what her body language looked like, how ferociously she did or didn't attack that sprint. And to me, she looked easy, she looked comfortable, she looked in control, and I think she didn't fully contest. That's why earlier I didn't use the word contest. I was using it a bit lightly because I don't think she fully committed to that sprint. I think she just wanted to work out like where to open up, what line to take, and so on. So I don't think she's expended any unnecessary energy, and I'm really keeping an eye on her today.
Marta Lack patrolling the front of the peloton. Just in her wheel is the young British rider Lauren Dixon, the 25-year-old from Hansling Alba Development Road Team. She's only been racing 1 year. Her progress in this sport has been pretty incredible. That's a bit of an understatement. Lauren Dixon, I think, is going to have turned some heads this week. The way that she's ridden, the way that she's performed, the way that she's handled herself. Not just her results, but the caliber of riders that she is challenging, she's climbing with.
So I was just doing some quick mental calculations. So in terms of the overall standings, we obviously know at the moment that Kat Ferguson and Ali Wollaston are tied on time. And so it then becomes a matter of, if neither of them pick up any time bonuses at the finish and they both finish on the same time, then there's extra considerations that have to be made.
And then extra considerations after that as well.
Exactly, in terms of who then wins, because they both have the same time. So the first thing that happens is is that they look at the finishing positions.
And you've got to do those calculations as well. When you take a look at the rule book from the UCI and the standings and how it's all going to be worked out, and this is why I was saying before to you, it's stressful now for SG Suez and Movistar. The UCI rules state that the general classification individual time is decided by adding together the time taken by the riders of each stage, less any time bonuses and plus any time penalties. The rider leading this competition after each stage will wear the overall leader's green jersey. Where 2 or more riders make the same time in the general individual time classification, the placings obtained in each stage shall be added together, and as a last resort, the place obtained in the last stage ridden shall be taken into consideration to decide the order in accordance with UCI Article 2.6.015. What are the standings and what are the stage results thus far for Kat Ferguson and Ali Wollaston?
So stage 1, finishing in red car, Kat Ferguson finished in 5th position, Ali Wollaston in 8th. Stage 2, finishing up Saltburn Bank, Kat Ferguson finished in 5th position, Ali Wollaston in 3rd. And obviously on yesterday's stage, into Kelso, we know that Ali Wollaston finished in 3rd position and Kat Ferguson in 1st position. So at the moment, Ali Wollaston, if you add all of those together, Ali Wollaston has 14 and Kat Ferguson has 11. So at the moment, if neither were to pick up any time over the other one at the finish of today, Kat Ferguson has the advantage over Ali Wollaston. Obviously, neither will necessarily be wanting it to come to that.
1 lap remains in the 2025 Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. We've got one rider who is solo off the front, and that is one rider from the Great Britain national team, Anna Morris. She's a threat, and look at the way that she throws the bike into the left-hand corner. She keeps this linear time trial position, time trial effort for Anna Morris. Behind is SD Works Pro Time in the purple jerseys, who are keeping a control. They want to try and deliver a stage victory for Lorena Wiebes, their European champion. Marta Lack up towards the front. It's going to be so tight, so close. Coming into the 10th and final lap. Less than 8 kilometres remain here in Glasgow, in the iconic city.
Riders of SD Works Pro Time just manoeuvring themselves to the front, looking after the interests of Lorena Wiebes, who will be desperate to get the stage win today on Glasgow Green.
Earlier on, we saw Anna Morris try and make an attack. She tried to take the gamble, take the risk, try and break away from the peloton. That was without success. Maybe, again, it was just a little bit of a test the legs. Because right now, going into this final lap, this rider is a real threat, she's a real danger. Given the fact you've got these corners, you've got the twists and turns, you're far better, given the fact you've got 12 90-degree corners. You're better as a solo rider.
Absolutely, it's so much easier to take those corners as an individual compared to being within the peloton. You can control your speed a bit better. You don't have to worry about people slowing down ahead of you and then re-accelerating. And particularly, I think, for someone like Anna Morris, who is so strong at the time trial, at the pursuit type effort, she's really good at these consistent power efforts, and I think it will suit her much more to be able to kind of pick a steady pace rather than having to deal with constant accelerations and decelerations. But to be honest, as we're seeing here, I think that the teams behind have such a vested interest in having a bunch, or at least a small reduced bunch finish on Glasgow Green, that they're not going to let individual riders stay away.
4 seconds between Anna Morris and the chasing and roaring peloton behind. You can see Picnic Postinel get themselves set on the left-hand side of the road in the indigo and orange jerseys. The pink jerseys of EF Education Oatly move forward. They're wanting to try and sprint today, potentially with Sarah Roy. Sarah Roy, though, is one of those riders up towards the front. Who is going to be the rider that is protected? Could it be Babette van der Wolf of EF Education Oatly? Lidl Trek on the far right-hand side in the red, blue and yellow jerseys, being led by Lizzie Deignan in her final Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. The two-time winner of this race will bow out of professional cycling at the end of this year. Now the green jersey arrives up towards the front with Floortje Mackay. Mackay is the rider in the white jersey. Also moving forward is Georgia Baker in the purple jersey of Liverlula Jaco. Well, it all comes back together. The fourth and final stage, and Anna Morris's day out front in the breakaway is done. Esme Pepperkamp makes the junction, the rider from Picnic Post-NL. Inke Veenhoven up towards the front in the yellow jersey. She's got a couple of recruitments moving forward. Where is Martina Fidanza, the Italian sprinter for Visma Lease Bike? Well, it was a brave effort from Morris, but
I think she expected to be reeled back in before reaching Glasgow Green, but it's really great for her to be able to spend some time out the front, show off the national team jersey as well, and she's had a really great race.
Linda Riedman is the rider on the front for Visma Lease Bike. Trying to move forward is Canyon Stram's under Crypto with Zoe Backstead, who's on the front. You can just see here Linda Riedman up towards the front in the yellow. A little bit of a wobble from Esme Pepperkamp, the Dutch rider for Picnic Post-NL, almost riding into Lisa Van Bella.
Lorena Wiebes is keeping herself so well positioned, even if some of her teammates maybe kind of end up moving into the bunch a little bit around some of those corners. Lorena Wiebes is just so good at positioning, finding her way through, and she always appears at the right place at the right time.
Ali Wollaston's got two teammates who are with her. They're going towards Glasgow Green for the final of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. Moving around the outside is Adrian Shaw and Soudal in those navy blue jerseys. The British national team moving forward with Millie Cousins and Flora Perkins. A little bit further down in your screen in the white jerseys.
This is really smart from Kat Ferguson, actually, because she's just manoeuvred herself onto the wheel of Lorena Wiebes. So me saying that Lorena Wiebes always turns up at the right place at the right time, that is an excellent wheel for Kat Ferguson to be following, because she knows that if she can follow Lorena Wiebes through, she will end up near the front of the race, if not at the front of the race, on Glasgow Green in a few kilometres' time.
4 kilometres to go, and it's Zoe Backstead who makes an acceleration to try and match Esme Pepperkamp, who gets out of the saddle with another big acceleration. They go through that 4 kilometre to go banner. Moving forward, number 43, that's Sarah Roy, a former stage winner of this race on 2 occasions. Just on a wheel is Babette van der Wolf. They've also got Mirka Narven, who is there. Lizzie Deignan, who is on the front in the wheel, is Rihanna Marcus. Just behind that is Emma Norsgaard-Bjau. Number 35 is Anna Henderson.
I'm just looking to see where some of the jerseys of the FDJ Suez riders are. I did see one of their riders popping up at the bottom right-hand side of the picture, and just trying to spot the jersey of Ali Wollaston there, and to see whether they're moving her up. They were obviously having a chat near the back of the peloton not that long ago, obviously discussing their tactics coming into this final sprint. So I would expect them to move themselves up pretty quickly.
This is Georgia Baker at the back here in the purple jersey of Livalula Jaco. Little Trek are in the commanding position at the front as they swing it into West George Street. 3 kilometres remain, 3,000 metres after 3 incredible stages. This 4th and final stage has been an absolute blockbuster. Shoulder to shoulder in the pink jerseys. RAF Education Oatley with Sarah Roy. Lidl Trek are setting such a tempo here, they're giving any other team a real hard time to try and move forward. Charlotte Cole has got one rider in a wheel, and that is Josie Nelson, who's made her way back through. Just coming to pick up Charlotte Cole is Rachele Barbieri, one of the world's best lead-out riders. The Italian and former track world champion in the scratch race has got Cole latched on a wheel. Now Josie Nelson starts to move forward, the rider number 124 in the indigo and orange jersey. Look at the way that Nelson, who took a 2nd place on the stage yesterday, is able to match pedal stroke for pedal stroke with Lizzie Deignan, and it's 2 British riders who are currently trying to lead their big leaders into the final here, into Glasgow Green.
There's a notable absence of FDJ Suez riders here, and the problem now is that Lizzie Deignan and Josie Nelson are sitting on the front of their team trains, and they're making the pace so high. As you said, it's going to be really difficult for people to fight their way forwards at this time, and FDJ Suez have got this so right so far.
2K to go. Through the 2,000 metre to go banner, and it's still Deignan and Nelson who have got their leaders in the lead-out trains. Visma Lisevik in the yellow jerseys who are starting to move forward with Martina Fidanza. In this kind of finale, you want to try and carry as much speed as possible in a city centre circuit, and Deignan, so experienced, has the knowledge of how to do this and how to lead a team. She's such a brilliant road captain. She's been such a terrific winner during her career. 43 pro victories, including a silver medal at the Olympic Games, a former road race world champion, a former track world champion, and right now in her final Lloyds Tour of Britain Women is giving absolutely everything to Anna Henderson.
This is going to be a thrilling finale. There are so many teams with interest in taking a stage win and so much ability to do so. And these final 1.5 kilometres are just going to be ferocious.
Deignan shouts to Norsgaard Björg, you need to go. That's me, done for the day. One final turn has been done. Now Marta Lack arrives at the front in the purple jersey with the European champion latched on a wheel. Barbieri swings off. She's given over the reins and handed over the reins to Charlotte Kool. But where is our leader in the general classification? The green jersey, Kat Ferguson. Where is Ali Wollaston? Wollaston, if she wants to win the general classification, she needs to try and take some bonus seconds to finish ahead of Kat Ferguson to go home as the 2025 winner of the Lloyds Tour of Britain. There I just got a glimpse of the green jersey of Kat Ferguson. Where's it going to be? This is going to be such a close final here into Glasgow Green. Lidl Trek have the commanding position up towards the front into the final here as they sweep through 500 metres to go. Marta Lack on the front in the purple. The European champion is poised, waiting and ready. Chiara Consoni arrives at the front in the pink jersey. Fidanza, where is she? She's the rider in the yellow jersey that you're looking out for. The Italian sprinter. Now things start to open up as now Anna Henderson starts to launch. Weavers wants to try and take the first place into this sweeping right-hand bend and almost coming together with Wollaston and Ferguson. Wollaston is trying to take some of these bonus seconds. Her teammates looking round, and Wollaston's going to go on and try and take some bonus seconds. And meanwhile, it's going to be victory for the European champion. Weavers wins 7 stage victories in the history of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. And behind, Ali Wollaston, having taken 3rd place on the stage, has sealed the deal and goes home as the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women winner overall. So close. What a battle. What a blockbuster. Weavers wins and turns things around for SD Worx Pro Time. The most successful rider in the history of this race in terms of stage victories. She delivers when it matters, and that was a huge team performance. Look at this lead out on the far right-hand side from FDJ Suez in the navy blue, bringing forward Ali Wollaston in that red jersey. What a shift, what a turn, and what an execution. Weavers head and shoulders above everybody else. Cole takes 2nd, but it was daylight between the 2 Dutch women. European champion winning 3 or 4 bike lengths ahead of Cole. Wollaston and FDJ Suez got that right. Time to perfection. It was a 4th place for Chiara Consoni.
Look what it means to them.
And in Fergie time, Wollaston's taken it. That was a display, an execution of teamwork to perfection.
Absolutely. You know, we were saying, where are they? Where are they? I was desperately wanting the camera angles to shift in those closing kilometres so I could see where they were coming from. But they timed it so well, and every single lap, every single sprint lap, the FDJ Suez riders were there. They were looking after Ali Wollaston. They believed that she could pick up enough bonus seconds and another incredibly tight margin at the end of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. An incredible stage and an incredible race overall. I think having taken a glimpse of one of the replays, maybe Kat Ferguson just had a very, very slight wobble at taking the final right-hand bend, approaching the last few 100 metres. Maybe that cost her a little bit of speed, but you can't take anything away from the teamwork and the execution of the FDJ Suez riders and of Ali Wollaston.
Look at this lead out from Celia Géry. The rider in that navy blue jersey, Kat Ferguson, just about latches herself onto the wheel of Ali Wollaston, loses a couple of wheels into that sweeping right-hand bend. But Wollaston's able to have a clear run to the finish. You see the way in which she used her teammate there, and her teammate was so smart and switched on.
The execution from the team as a whole, this is why I mentioned yesterday how you get these individual results, but it's a team performance.
There we get the confirmation. Lorena Wiebes wins the stage ahead of Charlotte Kool, two Dutch women taking first and second, Ali Wollaston taking third, and those 4 bonus seconds. Chiara Consoni settles for fourth with Babette van der Wolf taking fifth. Henderson, the first British rider today, in sixth, with Kat Ferguson finishing in seventh. Celia Geret in eighth, Zanetti taking ninth, with Nyenke Veenhoven taking 10th for Visma Lease Bike. Lars Bohm, the sports director, job well done. The first rider from New Zealand to win the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. An incredibly proud moment for the team.
Absolutely, she looks in shock.
I was just going to say, but it takes a calm team to deliver such a result, to keep that composure, to not lose focus across the 82 kilometres, to not have any issues, no mechanical problems.
I think as well, they make it look easy. You know, they manage to turn up at the right place at the right time, have that lead out, be in position. But I don't think it can be easily expressed how difficult it actually is, given how easy they make it look. To work your way through the peloton of 93 riders and make sure you're at the front at the crucial moments, going into those final corners, and then to have the energy to out sprint, you know, some of the best sprinters in the world, having already contested 3 intermediate sprints. It was just such a great display of tactics and then execution. And I think some of the calmness has to come as well from, obviously the riders have to be calm in the situation in a really high pressure race, but having such an experienced voice in your team car behind you, having Lars Boom there to say, okay girls, this is how we're going to do it, this is what just happened on this intermediate sprint, and this is what we need to do now.
And there we have it. Ali Wollaston is the 2025 winner of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. 4 seconds separated her and Kat Ferguson, courtesy of that third place finish. Caroline Swinkels taking third, with Brianna Marquez in fourth. Sarah Van Dam consolidates that 5th place ahead of Cecilia Trubb-Ludwig. Megan Jastrab in 7th, with Anna Henderson in 8th. Quinty Ton takes 9th place, with Millie Cousins taking 10th in the general classification. 3 British riders in the top 10, 3 Dutch riders, but the first time a rider from New Zealand has won this race overall. After 10 hours and 36 minutes of racing and 45 seconds, only 4 seconds separating the top 2.
I think it's worth saying that Kat Ferguson will obviously be disappointed. It's going to hurt. She wanted to hold on to that green jersey today. She mentioned that, but I think she should be incredibly proud of the way that her and her team have raced over these few days, the maturity that she's shown. This is her first year racing at this level, and to be 4 seconds away from taking the overall victory at the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women is incredible. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that we will see her on this podium at this race in the future. So yes, there will be disappointment, but there's so much promise.
She came into this race aiming for a podium finish on a stage and trying to go for the general classification, to give it a shot. Looking at the parkour, it suited her well. She knew that the stages would suit her attributes as a rider. There was no big, long alpine mountain passes, but instead 3-4 kilometre Queen of the Mountain points. For Kat Ferguson, she's not only exceeded the expectation of a podium on a stage, she's taken a stage victory, her first Women's World Tour victory, and she's finished on the podium of the overall general classification.
And won the lead and worn the leader's jersey for a day as well.
jersey. goes home as the winner of the Best Young Rider classification.
Yeah, she's had an incredible tour. She was mature. Well, she's been mature throughout the race, but her words at the start of the race were very mature. She outlined what she would love in a dream scenario, and said, you know, I appreciate that it's going to be hard, and there's the best riders in the world are here. But I think actually, in terms of how she feels now, you know, she should go back and think, 4 days ago, this is what I said I wanted. If you asked me then, would I be happy with this result, I would have said yes. I would have taken it, like, you know, 100 times over. So that's what she needs to be thinking about now, and not, I'm disappointed because I lost the green jersey by 4 seconds.
There's been a real buzz around Glasgow Green all day. The festival vibe, there's been plenty to do, lots of free activities. You've had the family ride.
There was a great atmosphere on the finish line as well, coming through for that final lap. The crowds were there cheering everyone on, and hopefully there'll be more people sticking around for the rest of the afternoon in the sunshine on Glasgow Green, and just taking advantage of the opportunity to enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy some of the activities that are going on, and just really be involved with the entire event that's taking place here today.
Four incredible days of racing. 4 different winners, 4 different stage winners. Kim LaCour of AG Insurance Soudal taking stage 1 into Redcar. Marta Roldan of Picnic Postanel winning stage 2 into Saltburn by the Sea. Yesterday, Kat Ferguson taking their first Women's World Tour victory, the highest level of professional racing you can achieve. Today, Lorena Wiebes winning the 4th and final stage. Now 7 victories in this race. No rider in history has won more stages than Lorena Wiebes. There's something about British roads that the European champion thrives on. She loves.
Yeah, she always does so well here in our racing, and it's great to watch her race here. I have so much respect for Lorena Wiebes, and you know, take so much from the opportunity to race with her. But as we alluded to several times today, just how easy she makes it look moving around on our roads and making sure she's at the front for the sprint. She's incredible.
Well, let's see how today's stage unfolded. They got underway, the flag was waved here in Glasgow Green. A really nice start in the park. The flag was waved through kilometre 0, and already on this city centre circuit, what lay ahead was some fast, furious action. Charlotte Cole, one of the big favourites for the stage victory, suffered a mechanical problem, dropped chain. She had to chase her way back through. 10 laps of racing, an 8.4 kilometre circuit, 82.2 kilometres in total. The pace was relentless throughout. There was never a moment where you had a lull or a moment to take some respite or a breather. 3 intermediate sprints, the first one coming with 50.4 kilometres to go. Anna Morris had a spell off the front, the rider from the Great Britain national team, and meanwhile it was FDJ Suez, the French World Tour squad in the navy blue and red jerseys, who were trying to set up Ali Wollaston to close in on Kat Ferguson and try and take some bonus seconds at the first intermediate sprint. A great lead out. It was Kat Ferguson who took first place into the final right-hand bend, but in the end it was Ali Wollaston who was able to come through at the last moment, almost a coming together between the two riders. Wollaston taking the 3 seconds ahead of Ferguson and Sarah Van Dam. Plenty more action ensued, including lots of attacks from Ceratizit Pro Cycling. The team in the blue and red jerseys, but each and every time that a rider tried to break away from the main bunch, it was all brought back to heel. Into the second intermediate sprint, it was the European champion who was just testing the legs. Having been involved in a crash a couple of days ago, she wanted to test the legs, knowing and feeling where she could sprint from if she wanted to try and go for a stage glory today. Wollaston taking another 3 bonus seconds ahead of Ferguson, the 1 second going to Wiebes, but it didn't have any impact on the race. Sadly, one crash for one of the riders from Picnic Postenel, and this was a huge moment in the race when the race leader, Kat Ferguson, in the green jersey, required a bike change. The 19-year-old keeping herself calm, cool and collected, made her way back to the peloton, ready for the next intermediate sprint of the day. She challenged and she fought hard to Ali Wollaston, settling for second place in 2 bonus seconds. Wollaston edged closer, and that put the 2 riders on equal billing, level on time, going into the final. Anna Morris took her opportunity to break away. She was reeled back in and into the final here in Glasgow Green. It was the European champion Lorena Wiebes who took first place into the sweeping right-hand bend. She had a compatriot, Charlotte Cole, who was trying to get back on terms, but in the end, the European champion, too strong, too powerful. 7 stage victories in the history of the Lloyds Tour of Britain women for the Dutch woman. Ali Wollaston made history as the first rider from New Zealand to win the overall general classification, courtesy of that 3rd place finish and the 4 bonus seconds she took there at the final. She wins 4 seconds ahead of Kat Ferguson, 22 ahead of Caroline Swinkles. Rihanna Marquez settles for 4th. Sarah Van Dam, Uhtred Ludwig, Jastrab, Henderson, Ton and Cousins rounding out the top 10. Some standout performances there, particularly one name for me. As we see a little bit of, this is Kat Ferguson with her family. You can understand the disappointment for Kat Ferguson.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for her. Obviously, you can see how hard it is for her for that to have happened, but she couldn't have done anything else today. I mean, just watching the recap there and the maturity with which she handled that bike change, the execution of that bike change, how she committed to every single sprint. She really couldn't have done anything else, and it hurts now and it's hard now, but she just needs to think back about what her ambitions were going into this race and how she's exceeded those ambitions, and it's easy for me to say sitting here and watching it, because I'd be the same as her, but she needs to just go back and think about what she said she wanted to achieve and then look at how much more she's achieved.
What she's achieved already in her first year as a professional rider has been exponential. Already taking a World Tour podium finish in one of the hardest races in Trofeo Alfredo Binda earlier on in the season, in the classic season. That was a standout moment. Fast forward a few months, she's now won a race at World Tour level. Finished on the podium in a general classification of a World Tour stage race. She'll go away and assess this race, but the team surely couldn't have done anything different, could they?
No, I don't think they could have done, and we saw on stages 1 and 2 the commitment that the riders from Movistar had. They were chasing on stage 1 to try and close the gap. They worked so well as a team unit through this race.
The Lloyds Tour Britain women, let's hear it for her!
Ali Wollaston. Well, the crowds are enjoying the New Zealand ride. I think she's pretty overwhelmed by the reception that she's receiving, and again an emotional moment for Wollaston.
A little bit emotional here. The emotion is real. I'm going to let you compose.
It's great to see how much these results mean to riders who've already achieved so much.
Thrilling, nerve-wracking. How are you feeling?
Yeah, a little bit overwhelmed, sorry. But yeah, I'm so happy. But yeah, firstly, just a massive thank you to my teammates. I really couldn't have done it without them today. There were a few moments of doubt, I think, today, and yeah, they really helped me pull it together in the final, and for sure I couldn't have done it without them. But yeah, this means the world to me. It's my first World Tour victory GC. So yeah, it's really awesome.
Let's hear it again for Ali Wollaston. So Ali, tell us what was going through your head, because you came into here second on GC, and did you have tactics?
Yeah, I mean, I started 3 seconds down today, and I knew I needed to get every second I could in the bonus sprints, and unfortunately Kat was riding my wheel every time, so yeah, it really came down to the last sprint, and yeah, there was definitely a moment halfway through that lap where I thought, I cannot do this today, and my teammates really helped me pull it together and brought me to the front for the final. But yeah, I knew I had to get back all of the seconds I could today.
I mean, it's been an absolutely brutal race. Today, track, you know, you ride the track as well. Tell us a little bit, how does your track skills convey to the road? Was today a track rider's course? What do you think?
Yeah, I think before today, I actually said to my DS that it feels like I'm riding an Omnium a little bit. We've done the first 3 races, and today was a points race. There were 4 sprints today, so yeah, it worked out quite well in my favour, I think. But yeah, it did feel like a little bit of a track race today, for sure.
Amazing, and just to be there.
If you don't know what an Omnium is a 4-discipline race on the velodrome, in the track, something that Ali Wollaston is pretty handy at. It consists of a scratch race, an elimination race, a points race, and a tempo race. And the way that she alluded to how she approached today just gives you some indication of how she was trying to approach today's final, given it was so close. And she knows how to deal with that pressure into one important final day and one important race here.
Absolutely. It was actually a really good analogy because in the Omnium, the points race is the final discipline, and you know, riders go into that event on a certain point standing, but then everything can be turned completely on its head because there are points available at intermediate sprints and then again at the finish. And so the riders are not only having to try and contest those intermediate sprints, contest the finish, pick up more points, but they're also doing a bit of mental arithmetic of what points total am I currently on, trying to get a look at the points board on the side of the velodrome and check the standings and work out the different tactics. And it's a lot of things to be paying attention to, and that's exactly what was happening today. You know, Ali Wollaston had to keep track of where am I, how many seconds do I now have, how many seconds do I need, what happens if somebody finishes in between myself and Kat Ferguson at each intermediate point. So it was a really good analogy of how this stage today ended up being run.
Great teamwork all round, and that final shift from Celia Géry into the final to try and deliver into that final right-hand bend was the catalyst that she needed to try and win, try and get the bonus seconds and get the podium placing. Absolutely. You know, the riders had a chance to look at that finale 10 times in total today, and but I was impressed that FDJ Suez just they got it right every time, and I was slightly concerned, I suppose, going into the closing kilometres because I hadn't seen them. I hadn't seen where they were. They'd been so prominent at the front, and then those closing kilometres, I worried that the pace had been so high that maybe someone had been caught out of position. But Celia Géry really came to the fore at the right time, delivered Ali Wollaston perfectly, and then Ali Wollaston repaid all of that hard work and finished it off. Lorena Wiebes takes a 7th victory in the history of the Lloyds Tour of Britain women. The most successful rider in the history of the race in terms of stage victories. The European champion comes out on top here in Glasgow Green. The Dutch woman smiles aplenty. And cheers from Lorena Wiebes with the Night Timber sparkling wine. Oh, she is going to spray the Magnum.
She'll be used to this, won't she? If one person should know how to open and spray the podium English sparkling wine, it is Lorena Wiebes.
She's getting it set, she's getting it ready. Certainly one of the most experienced. 102 professional road victories now for the European champion. Like a pro. SD Works Pro Time. It took them 4 stages, but they deliver a stage victory. Their ambitions for the general classification certainly didn't go as predicted. I'm going to have that one for later. I'm going to share this one with my teammates. I don't blame you.
Take the glass and the bottle, thanks a lot.
a nice way to round off and cap off 4 days of racing.
We're all at it.
And the Stage Combativity Award,
as voted for by you, the fans, the public. The most combative rider of today's stage is Kat Ferguson. Look at, hear the roar, the reception for Ferguson.
She gave everything. I think that's a very well-deserved combativity award because she fought so hard to keep that green jersey and she couldn't have done anything else.
See the pride in which Kristen Faulkner is just looking at Kat Ferguson then.
Overall, and we'll welcome Danny Scholl from Lloyds to the stage to present the prize. And this is the most combative rider.
The most combative rider overall, as voted for by the race director, Rod Ellingworth. It's going to be the Olympic Road Race champion, the USA national champion. Kristen Faulkner of VF Education Oatley will go home as the most combative rider overall across the 4 days. Well deserved for Faulkner. Yesterday, you had to feel for her, but I've never seen a rider fight tooth and nail without showing any glimpses of frustration, annoyance, everything that she went through, the 2 crashes, the bike change. She had to have a shoe change because it crashed it broke in the crash.
Yeah, it's not just her in terms of her personality and her resilience and her maturity, but also the respect for the green jersey. It's great to see the respect for the leader's jersey. You don't give up. You just keep fighting until you cross that line, and it was great to see that.
Well, the winners of the team classification are FDJ Suez, not just because of the time they win 3 minutes 49 ahead of Picnic Postonel, 4:07.2 Lidl Trek, a combined time of 31 hours, 53 minutes and 45 seconds. This is always nice for a team to win this classification because cycling, you see, and as we've seen, it's one rider who crosses the line as the winner. FDJ Suez, they don't just deserve it because they have won the team classification, but the way that they've ridden over the last 4 days, and in particular today, they really were the team of the day.
Absolutely, and I feel we almost need to apologise a little bit to them on stages 1 and 2 when we questioned potentially what they were doing. Well, this is what they were doing. They were setting themselves up for this victory, and it was actually an incredible team performance throughout the race, but then the demonstration of the team performance and the result of that today really capped it off.
The best British rider is Kat Ferguson. Another trip to the podium for the 19-year-old British rider from Movistar. Another trophy for the mantelpiece. She's gotten used to these podium protocols and ceremonies.
She's going to have many more in her future, without a doubt.
Overall, and we will welcome the City Governor from Glasgow, Bailey Christie, to the stage.
The next classification about to be awarded. There we see the Special Lloyds Tour of Britain trophy.
The points classification
winner is once again Kat Ferguson of Movistar. She goes home with the red jersey.
She's got a full array of colours going on.
Looking down at the standings, Kat Ferguson and Ali Wollaston today have been inseparable. Both riders in that points classification finishing on 79 points.
Yeah, so the organisation will have had to look at the countback.
Only on countback from the stage victory.
It's incredible how tight the different classifications of this race end up being, and we see it time and again, but it leads to such exciting racing.
The winner of the Queen of the Mountains competition is Dominika Wlodarczyk of UAE Team ADQ, the Polish champion, taking home the blue jersey. The 24-year-old's had an exceptional 4 days of racing. She's enjoying it, isn't she? Absolutely take a bow. She's been exceptional. Not least from her winning that jersey, but also the work that she's done to try and help her teammates, in particular Caroline Swinkels. The best young rider in that white jersey is, of course, going to go to Kat Ferguson. Another jersey to add to her wardrobe. The future's bright.
Moving on to the general classification here in the Lloyds Tour of Britain.
One of our final classifications to award is the general classification. And of course, that green Lloyds leaders jersey. Dominika Wlodarczyk, by the way, winning that blue jersey by 2 points ahead of Cecilia Ludwig. In third place in the general classification is Caroline Swinkels of UAE Team ADQ. She's delighted with that performance, isn't she? And rightly so. Well executed from UAE Team ADQ. I think they managed everything that was thrown at them today to try and defend a podium placing.
Absolutely. You know, she went into the day in good spirits. I think she was under no illusions that she was potentially not going to be able to move up into second or first, but her team did a great job of protecting her third place.
Kat Ferguson takes second in the general classification. 4 seconds in arrears to Ali Wollaston, but the winner of the 2025 Lloyds Tour of Britain Women, the first rider from New Zealand to win the overall general classification, is Ali Wollaston of FDJ Suez. Each and every day we've had a new leader in this classification. No rider has worn this jersey for more than 1 day, and today it changed shoulders from Kat Ferguson. Wollaston, the 24-year-old, going home as the winner of the overall. Maybe afterwards, Wollaston and Ferguson can exchange trophies.
Yeah, I don't think, I'm not sure they noticed when looking at the back of the trophies. It's a nice touch, actually.
It is very nice, I have to say. What they've done with the jerseys, the trophies, the artwork that the riders have been awarded. Yesterday's hamper full of
the hotel stay,
delicious goodness, the hotel stay in Redcar and Saltburn by the Sea for the stage winners. Now the big competition now, who wins the sparkling wine race? Who's going to get the cork on the wow? Ferguson wins that, clear as day. Sparkling wine of Night Timbers sprayed, and you can hear the roar.
Take a swig, ladies.
Oh, please do.
There we go.
There you have it, our 2025 winner, the 2025 winner of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. Ali Wollaston wins 4 seconds ahead of Kat Ferguson, with Caroline Swinkels at 22 seconds. Incredible. 4 days of exceptional racing. Unpredictable at times, thrilling at others.
It's had it all, hasn't it? The race has thrown everything at the riders, everything at us, and it's been another great edition of the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women.
Well, Weaver's in all of this. She was our stage winner into Glasgow Green, the European champion. Let's hear a few words from our stage winner on stage 4.
Lorena, congratulations. How was it?
Yeah, it was again a tough race. with this city center, you know that it's like all the time you have to push the power. But the team did a really good job to keep me safe in the front, and for me it was perfect towards the finish, and I could do my sprint as I wanted to do.
I'd say the team kept you safe. That was the plan all along. Just talk us through the last lap.
Yeah, they did a really good job, and I'm really happy that we could finish this a week with pretty much bad luck for us as a team to finish it off in a good way.
And overall, how was the week for you in terms of the crowds and atmosphere around the whole Tour of Britain?
Yeah, with the crashes it was not the best week. We lost the GC. So, but I think we can be happy that we have no big injuries in the team, and I mean, if we finish it now like this, it helps a bit.
The stage win eases that worry.
Yeah, it's good to end it like this with a stage win, so we can be happy with it.
Congratulations, thank you.
Thank you.
Great to hear the words of Lorena Weaver's our stage winner, and just stating there the importance of the team and how they kept her safe and out of trouble, and particularly on that final lap, how crucial the riders were at keeping her up towards the front. Incredible execution there from the European champion. Well, Ali Wollaston becomes the first rider from New Zealand to win the overall classification here at the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women. Let's hear from the 24-year-old from FDJ Suez after that incredible victory.
Ali, congratulations, just off stage having won your award. How are you feeling?
Yeah, very overwhelmed. So happy with today. It really couldn't have gone any better for me today.
You spoke before the race and we spoke about those tactics and intermediate sprints. Talk me through the plans and how they came into action.
There were 3 bonus sprints and one sprint in the end today. So I was lucky that there were a lot of seconds up for grabs today. But yeah, the plan was to just get as many seconds as I could, and yeah, unfortunately Kat was in my wheel for every single one of the sprints, so it really came down to the last sprint. And yeah, halfway through the lap, I thought, for sure that my race is over. I felt really, really terrible. But I was lucky I had the most motivating teammates, and yeah, they really picked me up one by one. It was like a team relay to get me back to the front, and yeah, the last lead out was really perfect. I was able to finish third today.
Saw you at the end with all your teammates celebrating, and you seemed very emotional. You were thanking them all, couldn't believe it. They did a fantastic job for you.
Yeah, terribly embarrassing. I'm so emotional. But yeah, they were so amazing today, and yeah, I really couldn't have done it without them today, and I'm just so grateful for the work that they did, and I couldn't be happier in this team, and yeah, just so immensely grateful for the support that I got over the last 4 days.
I'm sure you're thinking about all your friends and family back home. I'm sure they've been watching.
Yeah, definitely. I think Mum and Dad will probably be a bit shocked back home. I called them last night and I said, the plan is just go for all 3 bonus sprints, and they said, Kat will probably be thinking the same thing. I said, yeah, come on guys. But yeah, I think they'll be super proud back home.
Congratulations, enjoy the victory.
Cool, thank you so much.
You can see how much that means to Ali Wollaston, and you know, for her, she's spending the majority of her season, probably 10 months of the year, based in Europe, so far away from family and friends, and for her, this is emotional.
Absolutely, and it obviously some families have such a history in cycling, and maybe for families that don't, it's sometimes difficult to explain and communicate exactly how things work and what they're doing, and to be able to then take this victory and say, it's hard for so long, so much of the year being apart and on such different time zones, but this is the reward for the work that I've been putting in, and everyone will be so proud.
Absolutely, they will. Wollaston from Auckland delivering the overall victory, and in the end it was such a close, narrow winning margin to Kat Ferguson, who ended up finishing second overall, but taking home a haul of jerseys, including the best young rider, the points classification, the best British rider, and second overall, adding to that stage victory she won yesterday. Let's hear from the 19-year-old Kat Ferguson.
Kat, I know it's difficult to talk after this, something close, but talk me through today's racing. I know you.
Yeah, it was eventful, I'd say. Always something going on with the 3 intermediate sprints, and also I had a puncture. I noticed that I had sealant everywhere after the second sprint, the first sprint, sorry, but I didn't want to change it as it felt okay, and then it slowly was going down. But changed it, got back on, it wasn't too much trouble, and then headed into the the final sprint, I was in an okay position, but then some got a bit chopped up on some corners before, and then that was it. Ali sort of went away, and I knew that was it. So of course gutted, but she was the strongest sprinter today.
You must be enormously proud of what you've done all week, though, Kat.
Yeah, I'm still can't be more happy with second place. If you told me at the beginning I'd have come second overall and also win a stage, I'd have been over the moon. So I can't be too disappointed.
And you and Ali were battling out through those intermediate sprints all the way through, and then of course coming off, you did so well to get back on.
Yeah, definitely. I tried to stay calm, which previously I would have probably panicked a lot more, but thankfully it happened in an okay place. There was still a lap and a half to go before the next sprint, so luck was on my side.
You say a stage win in Young Rider and second in GC. It's a good week.
Yeah, it's been a really good and memorable week. Definitely, one I remember, and with all the crowds here today and my family and friends, it's been super special. And I'm grateful to the team and everyone for all the support.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Well, there we have it. If you told her at the start of the week what she'd achieved, she'd be delighted with it. But she comes out with a second place overall, a stage victory. The overall going to Ali Wollaston, only 4 seconds separating first and second. Caroline Swinkels in third place at 22 seconds. Rihanna Marcus, Van Dam, Uttrup Ludwig, Jastrab, Henderson Ton and Cousins rounding out the top 10 after 4 incredible days of racing here at the Lloyds Tour of Britain. Well, we've had a blockbuster. We've been treated to some of the finest racing that you could have wished for. 4 brilliant stages, unpredictable, exciting, thrilling. 4 different stage winners, and Ali Wollaston making history as the first rider from New Zealand to win the overall classification. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring you the Lloyds Tour of Britain Women this year. Thanks for joining us from wherever you've been watching from myself, Hannah Walker, and Hayley Simmons. We'll see you next time.